Let's get it. We're ready to rock and roll here for a big weekend of rugby league and some semi-final action. Hey guys, how you going? So down BKR Sport, we are live as we are getting ready to watch on from here on out elimination finals. It is do or die from here for every single team. That includes the teams that aren't playing this weekend, because next weekend is also elimination final for the preliminary finals. So from here on out, a team loses, you're gone. See you later. Get on out of here. All right. But if you win, gee whiz, we're only 2 weeks away now. 2 weeks away from grand final day, which is going to be an absolute rocking day, man. So obviously today, guys, the game does start in about 1 hour's time. We've got plenty to get through. Got to go through the team list, talk about the Raiders, talk about the Sharks. Big news with the Raiders having a massive out of Ethan Strange today. Massive out. That's going to be absolutely telling in regards to how this Raiders team does play, because he's been so good. And there's even a little bit of a smoky for a Dally M shout. A little bit of a smoky there. Don't know if he gets it, but smoky, which we will be live for. We'll be live for the Dally M's. Anyway, so we're going to go through the Raiders team lineup, the Sharks team lineup, talk about those two teams. Also go into the points for, points against, see how they're tracking coming into this game. And then obviously we will get into the chat and see what you guys are saying. So obviously, hit that like button. Subscribe if you are new around here. Let us know in the chat who you do think gets home with the win today. I do believe the Raiders are decent enough favourites. But then again, being in Vietnam, I don't get to see the betting odds. I would assume the Raiders were strong favourites. And then now maybe with the Ethan Strange out, you're probably going to see it come a little bit closer. But I do think the Raiders probably still are favourites there, especially considering they did finish the season off in first. But last week, they did go down to the Brisbane Broncos in one of the best games of all time. It just simply was. There was a lot of controversy around it, but ultimately every part of that game was just absolutely phenomenal from the get-go. You know, massive comebacks, there's controversy there, team that was in fourth beating the team in first, and there's just so much that was at play. So that will also you have to take a little bit of note in regards to that as well, considering the fact that, you know, that would have taken a lot out of the Raiders. Oh, I'm going to put my phone on mute so that I don't get that bouncing off throughout the stream. We don't want that bouncing off throughout the stream. But all right, let's get into this team lineup for today. Now, obviously, the Canberra Raiders, they come into this game from first position, whilst the Cronulla Sharks come into this game from fifth position, and this is at GIO Stadium in Canberra. The way these two teams got here, obviously the Raiders went down in an excruciating 93 minutes or so of extra time. Golden Point last week, they lost 29-28 to the Broncos. The Broncos, obviously, they get a home final for the preliminary final at Suncorp Stadium, and that will be against the winner of the other game, which is tomorrow, the Canterbury Bulldogs taking on the Penrith Panthers. So the Raiders came into this with that loss there, whilst the Sharks, on the other hand, they come in with a win over the Sydney Roosters. The Sharks, they finished down there in fifth position. They had to take on the eighth position Roosters. They played at home at Shark Park and got a win, 20 points to 10, which was good. The Roosters were in form. The Sharks, actually, surprisingly enough, for a lot of people out there, are in a lot of great form as well. You know, I think they've won 7 out of their last 8 games that people aren't realistically talking about. They're focusing on them as a whole this season and not necessarily them coming right at the correct time. But then again, we will find that out tonight. So the Sharks obviously play here, and the winner of this game will go through to play the Melbourne Storm in Melbourne next week, which I believe is on Friday, because the AFL Grand Final's on Saturday. A lot of controversy surrounding the fact that we do have a Friday preliminary final next week and a Sunday preliminary final, where usually it would be the Friday and the Saturday. So a lot of confusion there, but ultimately we saw the viewership numbers this year for the NRL on Sundays have been dramatically increased, and especially last week's game, which obviously fed into it and fed into the growth there on a Sunday with how quality the game was and how it did finish up there. But I do actually really like the idea. I do like the idea of that Sunday game, but I understand the traditionalism of having the Friday and the Saturday. But yeah, like I said, Raiders first, Sharks fifth, and we go to the Canberra Raiders here first up. Now, Ethan Sanders, he is in, with the out being Ethan Strange. Now, the fullback is KO Weeks, with the wingers of being Savelia Tamale and Jed Stewart, centres of Matty Tomoko and Sebastian Chris. The 5'8", they keep him there. Simi Sasangi, he was originally 15, obviously Ethan Strange dropping out. Simi Sasangi has been pushed from the 15 into the starting 5'8". It's very interesting considering that, you know, Ethan Sanders was there or thereabouts, but they've decided to keep him as the 18th man there. But Simi Sasangi is the 5'8", with Jamal Fogarty as the halfback. Go to the props, Josh Papali'i and Joseph Tarpany, who is the captain. Number 9, Tom Starling. A back row of Hudson Young and Zach Hosking, with the 13 being Corey Horsburgh. Then the interchange of Owen Paddy, Morgan Smithies, Atamariota, and Matty Nicholson comes in from the 18th man onto the bench with the 18th man remaining as Ethan Sanders, and Ricky Stewart is the coach. Now, this is a ballsy decision here. This is a really ballsy decision because, look, Ethan Sanders could have come in. They could have actually, and he's obviously a half that they are going forward with into next year. They're not necessarily going the Bulldogs route of with Galvin immediately being implemented when there is an opportunity here, because this is within the hour. So this is now their official lineup, comparatively to the last 24 hours where they had to reduce the extra men and whatnot. Anyway, long story short, they had the opportunity to put Ethan Sanders in, but they haven't. They've kept him as the 18th man, so that is really interesting. Look, I think when you're looking at the ins and outs, there's not much that changes in regards to the ins, but the out is just so dramatic. Ethan Strange has been absolutely phenomenal this year. He is, like, at the beginning of the year, I wasn't seeing a great deal out of him, and I actually mentioned this on a couple of our streams, that the first maybe 10 or so weeks, the Raiders were getting wins, but I was more so looking at Jamal Fogarty, what he was doing, and the Raiders forward pack, and the Raiders as a balanced outfit, and how they were overachieving on overachieving on everybody else's expectations, not necessarily on theirs. They would have believed that they're a team that can do this, right? But Ethan Strange was kind of okay, but he wasn't anything spectacular. But since then, he's really taken a charge and just absolutely smashed this season. And we also saw what obviously happened in that Penrith Panthers game a few weeks ago, which was exceptional from him to break down that left-hand sideline. Obviously, he wasn't the only one. There was, two other Raiders players involved, and KO Week scoring the try. But it was really top-tier stuff from Ethan Strange, and he has been a massive floating six that has been extraordinary to watch. He scores multiple tries. He's a good try scorer as a 5'8", which is not an out-of-this-world thought process that a 5'8" is going to score, but it's also not necessarily a likely thought process because they are more, the halfback is the defining role and the 6 is more of a floater, but at the end of the day, you're going to look at more of the 6 than the 7 to score a try, but it's just not necessarily the norm. You're not going to see it absolutely frequently, but he does score quite frequently. So this is a big loss here for the Raiders, especially with bringing Simi Sasungi in, who I'm not sure how he's going to go in the 5'8" here. That's why I was actually quite surprised. I know Ethan Sanders didn't have a great game the other week against the Dolphins when they rested all their players, but he never had the opportunity to. I feel like Ricky's probably said Ethan Sanders is definitely more of a halfback, and he's not necessarily a 6, and Jamal Fogarty and Sanders probably get in the way of each other. That's how I'm assuming this thought process has come here. But we have to wait and see. Ricky Stewart is clearly a good coach. He loves Canberra. I'm sure he knows what he's doing here, and he has pushed Simi Sasungi into that 6. So that is a major concern, because I would say that if you're going to find X factor from their attack, you're going to find that brilliant spurt of attack. It's going to come from Ethan Strange rather than Jamal Fogarty. Jamal Fogarty's the guy who will, get the kicks going. He will stabilise the field. He will stabilise the team, and he will just kind of overall keep the team balanced, whilst Strange was able to float and do his thing and create that X factor. So Simi Sasungi has massive boots to step into today. Massive boost. This is an elimination final. If you lose this, you're out in straight sets, which is actually what we saw in the AFL. The first place team in the AFL, the Adelaide Crows, they went out in straight sets as well. Mighty Catters into the grand final, by the way. How about it? But, this is a scary sign here that the Raiders could go out in straight sets, and in both codes, the exact same thing happening. Because there is a lot of question marks now about their attack. Because Tom Starling here in the 9, he's solid. I actually do prefer Owen Paddy. I think that Owen Paddy is a really, really good hooker. Really nice up-and-comer in the system. And I do wonder who's going to take preference there. But for the time being, like Tom Starling and is solid. I would still say that more of the X factor will come from Owen Paddy, who is on the 14 and does come on more so late on in games. KO Weeks has still got a good X factor. I do love their 2 through 5, mainly speaking about Matty Tomoko and Sebastian Chris in the centres. I think there's plenty of X factor there. And then you've got to the forwards. Hudson Young's got X factor. So does Zach Hosking. Joey Tarpany has a bit of it as well with the solidity. So they do have X factor players that can make up for the loss of Ethan Strange on that factor, but it's about being able to get them involved here. Are they going to be able to get these X factor players that have been so fantastic throughout the season without a guy as significant as Ethan Strange, who has been able to get them all involved? So that is a very, very big worry. But overall across this team, like the wingers are solid. Jed Stewart's had a pretty good season. Sevilio Tamale, he was breaking out before he got injured. Now he's back and he's solid. Like I said, the centres are 2 of the best centre pairings in the competition. Really, like I don't think people talk a great deal about how quality this centre pairing is. You do have great centre pairings across the comp, but can you name where would you put these guys as a combo? Because if you look at the Warriors, you're not putting the Warriors above them. You wouldn't be putting the Titans above them, centre pairing wise. You're not putting the Cowboys. The Broncos, they have Katoni Staggs and Gehama Shibasaki. Maybe you could look at that, but I'd say on a more consistent level, I probably would be taking Matty Tomoko and Sebastian Chris individually as a centre pairing above those two guys. Maybe the look at the centres of the Dolphins with Herbie Farnworth and Jake Avarillo. That's well and truly up there. But the point is that you go across the competition. These guys are top three, and you could make a dead set argument for even if you want to put them in one for the best centre pairing combination in the competition. So I do really think that they were underestimated as a backline coming to this year, and they've really proven the haters wrong in regards to that. The forwards everyone's known about. The forwards, everyone knows that Tarpany, international for New Zealand, Josh Papali'i, international for Samoa and Australia, Hudson Young, has he played international? I don't think he has, but he's origin for New South Wales, and Corey Horsburgh, origin for Queensland. He played this year, didn't he? Or was it last year? Anyway, point of the matter is that everyone knows the Raiders 4-pack is good, but I feel like the biggest concern that people had pre-season was more so their backline and being able to create the attacking chances, because the forwards were always going to get them there. It was just about Jamal Fogarty and Ethan Strange, and then their fullback and their hooker getting it going, which they've obviously proven everyone wrong. So they can prove everyone wrong tonight in regards to the doubts that we're having with Ethan Strange out. But look, overall, this Raiders team is a very balanced roster as well, which is exactly what I'm about to tell you in regards to the Sharks as well. Both these teams are very balanced. I just thought pre-season the Sharks looked more balanced, and the Raiders have proven to be an extremely balanced team throughout the 2025 season. If we go back and have a look at the recent form here for the Raiders, obviously last week, like I said, they lost 29-28 to the Brisbane Broncos. That was a heartbreaker. The week before that, just can it from the memory. Get it out of here. 62-24 to the Dolphins. Technically speaking, no team has ever won from conceding 50 points, so this would lean into the fact that Raiders don't win the comp this year. But the Raiders literally didn't play their stars at all. They really didn't. They took out all of their main guys. So whilst they lost that game by about 40-odd points, who cares? Don't even look at it. They rested all their players. Before that, though, they beat the Tigers 24-10. Beat the Panthers in that absolutely incredible game that Strange was a big part of, 20-16. They had to beat Manly 28-12, and then you go back to their loss against the Dragons. And this is a really key team here to look for both of these teams, because the Dragons beat both of them. The Dragons beat the Raiders and the Sharks in consecutive weeks at that time of the season. In round 22, the Dragons won 18-12 over the Raiders in Wollongong. And then if you go to the Sharks the very next week, the Dragons beat the Sharks 22-14 in a pretty solid effort from them. So it's interesting that both these teams have actually had some really good form outside of that and outside of that game. But the Dragons were they are just that team, very inconsistent. They can beat those big dogs, but can really just struggle overall, and that's why for some reason, I still don't get it, and we'll talk about it on Tuesday on our postseason review. I still can't believe the Dragons actually came third last. I think it's a super harsh placing. I know it happened. That's how the draw ended up. That's how the ladder finished up. But I just feel like when I think of the Dragons this year, it's super harsh, especially when you do focus on this and say, well, they beat the Raiders and then they also beat the Sharks. But the point is, if you look at their last 10 games, well, since round 20, coming into this game, in round 20, they beat the Eels 40-16. In round 21, they beat the Knights 44-18. They lost to the Dragons 18-12, so they're 2-1. Then they beat Manly 28-12, so they're 3-1. Beat the Panthers 2016, 4-1. Beat the Tigers 24-10. That's 5-1. I'm not including the Dolphins game, so they'll be 5-2 with that loss last week to the Broncos. So that is still a pretty strong record. It's not as strong as what you saw through that middle part of the season, where they were just winning games week in, week out, week in, week out. But there is some big opposition teams there that they've had to play in that meantime, which have been obviously the Broncos last week, the Panthers where they got that win there. Manly were in the hunt for the 8 at that time. The Eels game I don't really care too much about because that was prior to their form. That Raiders game was prior to the form that we saw from the Eels in that back part of the season. So look, the Panthers and Manly and the Broncos were 3 teams you've really got to kind of look towards there. And out of those 3 games, they did win 2 of them. Right, so it is a pretty good pretty good statistics still for them. Overall, Raiders haven't been as consistent as their middle part of the year, but they still did finish in first place for a reason. I'm just concerned that 94 minutes last week in a really brutal game that they won twice and then still lost, for them to win twice, lose after 93 minutes, 94 minutes at home, it is just such a crusher. And whilst the players and the coaches and all that and the fans are going to tell you, like it's fine, it's okay, we're going to be able to go again. It's like just one little error can really adjust the mindset in this game. From, one little error can derail every good point that you've made in the game so far, on the basis that it will give you that thought process, that little inkling of what happened last week. And the Canberra Raiders for a very long time have been known as the faders. Sorry, Raiders fans, to bring this up, but I have to do it. I'm a Titans fan, so I know all about your feelings. I know how it feels to just to throw leads away. We went toe-to-toe with you for many years. So before you go, you're a Titans fan, you can't say this. I can say what I want, and it's true. But the point is that the Raiders are known as the faders. And last week they did that. So you just don't want those errors to creep in that can bring you back to that nightmarish end of what happened last week, being up by as many points as they were. That's the big key telling point. The three things to look for the Raiders today: Ethan Strange being out, the fader thought process, and also the 94 minutes that they won twice and lost. They're three big factors that will apply to the Raiders today. Now for the Cronulla Sharks, we go to the ins: Thomas Hazelton, and the out is Oregon Kafusi. The fullback is William Candy, with the wingers being Sione Katoa and Ronaldo Mulatalo, centers of Jesse Ramian and Kale Iro. The 5'8" is Braden Trindle, with the halfback being Nico Hines, and needs a big one tonight. Front row forwards of Adam Fanor-Blake and Toby Rudolph, with the number 9 being Blake Brayley. Back row of Billy Burns and Teague Wilton, with the 13 being Jesse Colhoun. Interchange: Britton Nakora, CSF Italikai, Braden Hamlin-Ueli, and Thomas Hazelton comes in from the 21 onto the bench, with the 18th man replacement being Daniel Atkinson, which we've seen so much this year. We've seen so much. This guy's just always on the 18th man, and the coach is Craig Fitzgibbon. This Sharks team, as I said, pre-season, I thought they were the most balanced roster in the competition. Now, they have absolutely, without any disagreement, been an underachiever this year. And that is quite crazy considering they came in 5th position. But if you have watched the season alongside us, a lot of this year they have been tentatively in the 8, or I don't know if they actually officially dropped out of the 8 one week in that middle part of the year. I can't remember. I'm actually going to quickly have a look here. Was it maybe around round 16? Round 16 they were in 6th. They did, yeah. In round 17, they dropped to 10th position, the Sharks. They did. So they were in 10th position round 17. Round 18, they were still in 10th position. Round 19, they only were in 9th position. Jesus, a couple of good weeks there where they were out of the 8. Then the Sharks obviously moved into 8th. And then, as I've said to you last week, and I'm about to tell you, their form, they're 7 out of their last 8 games with a win. If you want to remove the finals game last week, that'd be 6 out of their last 7, which is why you're going to see them run home like a train to finish off in that 5th position. But in round 20, so 7 rounds before it finished, they were in 8th position. Then they went to 7th position in round 21, stayed in 7th in round 22, stayed in 7th in round 23, stayed in 7th round 24, and then 6th, 25, and 5th in 26, and that's how it ended. So this Sharks team has been majorly underwhelming, but they've still been able to salvage a very good season. 5th is still a very good placement. It's not as high as I feel like most Sharks fans would have believed, and it's not as high as I believed. I feel like most people probably had them for this area, if not top 4. If you had them outside of the top 8, it really didn't make sense pre-season at all. There was just no reason to believe it. And you would have been thinking you're pretty crash hot with your predictions and how you see rugby league and the Sharks when they were situated in 10th position and 9th position. But this roster is so balanced overall that they were always going to still make the 8. Despite the fact that we had them on scam and fraud alert and whatnot, they do still have way too much X factor. And they've got enough solidity there, which is the only issue that I find, that there is quite a lot of players that do have X factor. Like Nico Hines, for example, I wouldn't put him as a solid solidity kind of player. I wouldn't put him as a halfback, which is my biggest problem over the last couple of years. I think that he is a 5'8". I know that they're just going to maintain him here in the 7 now. He is on that big time contract. I know they're just going to, stay stubborn and keep him there. Depends on tonight, to be fair. is what I would go with. If they win this game here today and Nico has a good game, then you can just simply make the argument that he should stay there. But if they do lose this and they go out pretty quickly in the finals again, because last week against the Roosters, okay, sure, you beat 8th place, whoop-de-doo. Yes, they were on good form, but if you come into this game and then Nico has a bad game and they lose quite well, then you do have to, again, come to the conversation whether Nico is the 7 that could win you a premiership. I do think that Nico can win a premiership and be a part of the team. He has at the Melbourne Storm, but I would more so be looking with the way the Sharks are set up, I would be putting him at the 5'8", and then what do you do with Trindle? Because ultimately, it's just not going to be happening here. It just wouldn't be happening long term with these two guys, despite the fact that they are good players, they are great players. It would kind of show that these guys just don't have the ability to take them to the next level when they do have the roster here. Look at their 1 through 5. William Candy is very hot and cold, but was leading the Dally M for a good half, not half the season, but a good 9 games at the start of the season. Will Candy was leading the Dally M, so he was playing that good. Yes, he can be cold, but for the most part, he is usually quite hot. The wingers are incredible. Sione Katoa, Ronaldo Mulitalo, both international wingers. Kale Iro, international centre. Jesse Ramian, international centre. Braden Trindle, he is Indigenous. Nico Hines played Origin. I'm trying to look for the highest place there. And then you go to the forwards as well. Adam Fanua-Blake, international. Blake Brayley, super underrated, man. A big conversational point, actually, to talk about is Billy Burns, because Billy Burns has been able to hold out an international New Zealand back rower in Britain Okora, and this is the correct decision, in my opinion. I think that what Craig Fitzgibbons decided to do here is actually correct, because Billy Burns has been dynamite. He has been dynamite in this back stretch of the season, which I don't think many people who watch the games will notice him. Well, not watch the games, but not if you don't watch it every single week, you won't notice him as much. But he has been absolutely unbelievable and probably one of their best players in the last month and a half. He's been incredible. So for him to be, he needs to be playing good to be able to hold out a guy like Britain Okora, and he's playing phenomenal. So that's really good depth there from the Sharks, that once Nikora went out for those weeks, he was able to come in and actually now hold out an international New Zealander. That's some crazy work there from Billy Burns. You got to take your hat off to him. I will also say that I don't mind the fact that Oregon Kaufusi has dropped out with Thomas Hazelton obviously coming in. I haven't necessarily rated a great deal of Oregon Kaufusi. Never really came on. Got plenty of opportunities as a prop and just as a starter and a bench, and I just haven't necessarily seen it. Probably had one of his better games last week, actually. But I do think Hazelton coming on does bring a great deal of solidity. The issue with the Sharks, for mine, is that they have so much X factor, but just not a lot of direction. That's my issue. Blake Brayley needs to be the guy. Super underrated. One of the best hookers in the game that people don't talk about because he's not Harry Grant or he's not Cottery Sow or he's not, all these kind of guys. Even guys like Mitch Kenny is super underrated, right? People look for the X factor, which is what Blake Brayley does have, but maybe it's just not to the exact same quality of Harry Grant, so he doesn't get mentioned as much when he realistically should. He has been one of the Sharks' best players this year, if not for mine, the Sharks' best player this year. I think Blake Brayley has been absolutely fantastic. So this Sharks team, they have every possible ability to come and win this game. They do. They have every possibility to come and win this game here in Canberra. These two teams are rivals as well, mind you. They are rivals that isn't like hectic rivalry, but we all obviously go back to McEnnis in I think it was 2016 when the Sharks obviously went on to win the competition. They knocked the Raiders out down there at GIO Stadium in Canberra. Ennis did the Viking clap. Was it 2016 or was it 2017? I can't remember. I know they won in 2016. I'm just trying to figure out if it was 2016 or 2017 when this happened. But ultimately, I think it was 2016. Ultimately, these two teams aren't big fans of each other. It's not the highest preference on the rivalry list, but they don't like each other. Recently, record speaking, 20-10 against the Roosters last week, which was good. Roosters were really poor, but the Roosters are a very informed team. That just wasn't a surprising performance from them because they are very hot and cold. So you can take that on its merit of a 20-10 victory there over an informed Roosters team, but you do have to look at it for a Roosters overall season-wise and say, well, the Roosters, yes, they were in some great form, but this was absolutely coming. That kind of performance wasn't completely askew from what we've seen from them. You go back to that Bulldogs game, 24-6. Bulldogs fans will try to tell you it meant nothing, and it did mean nothing. But, big but here, is that both teams had nothing realistically to play for. Both teams need to get some momentum going into the finals. One team last week lost in the Bulldogs to the Storm, and the other team, the Sharks, won against the Roosters. Yes, two very different teams. Contextually, Storm are second, and also the Roosters are in 8th position, but that's not the point. The point is to get a win going into the finals to give you some really solid momentum going into the most important part of the season. And I feel like the Bulldogs, they missed a massive trick with this. They missed a massive trick. They missed a massive opportunity to stamp their ground and to get themselves back into some form. They've got a big game against the Panthers tomorrow. The week before that, they beat the Knights 40-16, whatever, but it's still a win. Had a bye, beat the Titans 54-22, whatever, but it's still a win. Lost that Dragons game 22-14, like I said, which was a pretty solid loss too. Beat the Cowboys 32-12, bit of whatever, but still a win. Beat the Rabbitohs 14-12. Massive whatever game because they were not good in that game, but still found a way to win. And that's the key thing that you look for in teams that can win a premiership is when they don't necessarily play at their best. Or you would even argue they don't necessarily deserve the win based off of what you've seen, and then they still win. That it is a really key sign of teams that can actually go on to win the competition. The Roosters, they beat them 31-18. The Dolphins, they beat them 24-12. And their big loss actually came back in round 17 to the Melbourne Storm 30-6, who they have beaten so far this year. So if the Sharks do get through this game, everyone's going to focus on that 30-6 loss to the Storm, but they also beat the Storm 31-26 as well in Cronulla. The Storm game where they won was down there in Melbourne. So if we try to be fair, with since round 20 that we went off with the Canberra Raiders, we had to remove that Dolphins game, even though that should be included based off of the win record, but we'll go from round 20. So 1-0 against the Roosters, then 2-0 against Rabbitohs, 3-0 against the Cowboys, 3-1 where they lost to the Dragons, 4-1 against the Titans, 5-1 against the Knights, 6-1 against the Bulldogs, and then 7-1 against the Sydney Roosters. So this team is in some great form. And the main thing to focus in regards to the games where it was a bit of whatever is they whooped the Cowboys, they whooped the Titans, and they whooped the Knights. So it's not like they just kind of came across them and just got past them like that Rabbitohs game. You know, you have to think about that with the Rabbitohs. But outside of that, all the other games against teams that they should be beating, they beat them and beat them well. Now, the Raiders are not a team that they should be beating and beating well, but they are in some form, and they have come into form at the right time of the season. So in regards to my prediction for today's game, I do think it's a very difficult one to read. Yesterday on my Instagram, if you guys are following me, I spoke on my story, or it might have even been, you know, it was yesterday. I spoke saying this game is actually way more difficult to read than tomorrow's game. On the basis of tomorrow's game, you have a pretty good idea of where you think the Bulldogs and Panthers game will end up. You have a pretty good idea of what direction it's probably going to go down. Not that you know it, but you have a decent enough idea. This game, there is so many pros and cons for the Raiders. There's also so many pros and cons with the Sharks. I'd say there's more cons with the Sharks, but I also think there's more pros with the Sharks. There's less cons with the Raiders, but I also think there's less pros. There's less cons and there's also less pros for mine with the Raiders, and that's what makes this so difficult. Now with Ethan Strange going out, I feel like I will be tipping the Sharks here. I feel like I will be. It's still a very difficult game to read. I just think they lose that key directive in the X factor of their attack. And the Raiders this year, like if you look at their points for, they've scored 654 points, which is only behind the Melbourne Storm, also the Brisbane Broncos, and the Redcliffe Dolphins, 1 point better than the Sydney Roosters there on 653. So the Raiders are in the top 4 for their attack. Absolutely phenomenal, but their attack centered around Ethan Strange. Jamal Fogarty was a stabilizer and is a stabilizer, but their attack centers around Ethan Strange being able to get that fluidity going. So that's such a key loss there in regards to their attack, and then you compare it to the Sharks' defense, because when you're comparing attack, you have to talk about the defense, not attack versus attack. The 654 there for the Raiders. The Sharks this year have given up 490 points, which is only behind the Melbourne Storm, the Canterbury Bulldogs, and the Penrith Panthers. So the Sharks are top 4 for defense. This is the 4th best attack, and the Raiders going up against the 4th best defense for the Cronulla Sharks. But with that being said, there is a key out there from that attack that gives them that top 4 attack. I ask you throughout the season, and you can say this in the chat, throughout the season, would you say that if Ethan Strange wasn't there, they score that many points? And I think you take off quite a dramatic amount of them. I really do. And I think they probably finish maybe around the Sharks Warriors section. That's where I think how important Ethan Strange is to this team. I really do. I think he's so important to them. So I probably would take them down there into that kind of area because he is that kind of player. So top four attack versus top four defense, but the top four attack does get brought down. And then if you look at the Sharks on attack, they've scored 599 points this season, which is worse than the Raiders, the Storm, the Broncos, the Roosters, and also the Dolphins. So they're the sixth best attack in the competition. Yeah, they're the sixth best attack in the competition, the Sharks. And then defensively for the Raiders, they've given up 506 points against, which is worse off than the Storm, worse off than the Bulldogs, just in front of the Broncos, worse off than the Sharks, worse off than the Warriors, worse off than the Panthers, and that's it. So this is actually quite funny. The Raiders, fourth best attack versus the Sharks, fourth best defense, whilst the Sharks, sixth best attack up against the Raiders' sixth best defense. So it's the exact same but opposite. Do you know what I'm saying? That's really intriguing. And I feel like that stat right there does lean more so in favor of the Sharks again. But there's only one game we can go off here this year between these two teams when they played very early on in the year, and that was a 24-20 win for the Canberra Raiders down there at GIO Stadium. Now, this game, the Sharks actually led for a large majority. Well, the Sharks were, I don't know if they led, but they did lead coming up into the last few seconds of the game, like I think 20-18. And then Sebastian Kris, the Raiders, ended up scoring like a 100-meter try to steal the game to death down there in round 5. But it does show you how close this game absolutely has the potential to be, because that game took up until the 78th, 79th minute for the Raiders to win it, and the Sharks were on top until that point. So this is a really difficult game to read, but I do think the for and against stats there actually do lean in favour of the Sharks with the removal of Ethan Strange. If Ethan Strange was playing, I think there is still a massive siding and benefit to backing in the Raiders there. But I think the upset, if it's still an upset, which I would assume it would be, I think it is on the cards. But this is going to be a close game here today, guys. We're into the semi-finals. You're not going to be expecting any kind of blowouts. And if you do see a blowout, you know, so be it. So be it. But I'm not going to go into any game expecting there to be a blowout. If there was to be one, maybe tomorrow, but I don't think so. Maybe you could see a blowout next week between... What matchups would look likely to be blowouts? Because again, if you look at the Storm and the Sharks, I'll get into the chat in a second. If you look at the Storm and the Sharks, yeah, the Storm blew them out once, but the Sharks also beat them once by 5 points in a belter. If you look at Storm versus the Raiders beat the Storm in a close game earlier this year. If you look at Broncos versus Panthers, I think that game has every merit to be like a 1-pointer. And then if you look at Broncos versus Bulldogs, well, that one could maybe be a big enough win there for the Broncos, because the Broncos have beaten the Bulldogs twice this year, and one of them was actually the first loss of the season for the Bulldogs, and they were down 32-0 at half-time. So I guess that maybe has a bit of a thought process about it, but the last time those teams played during the Origin period, it was an 18-point comeback there for the Broncos, but we'll talk about that next week. Point matter is, I think this will be a belter here today. I think all the finals games so far have been belters. Warriors-Panthers was a bit okay, but overall, it's been a great final series and a great season so far. So obviously, hit that thumbs up button, guys. Like the video. Subscribe if you're new around here. Also, just before I get into the chat, I want you to click on that link in the pinned comment. Obviously, subscribe to BKRtravel. But I want you guys to ask me any question that you have about any country that I've been in so far this season. We're going to be answering a bunch of your questions because I'm getting a lot of them on Instagram and all that kind of jazz. So now we're going to be doing it on BKRtravel. So if you have a question about countries like America, Fiji, obviously Australia, Hong Kong, India, Thailand, Malaysia, or Vietnam, please feel free, go over there, comment it on the video that I've got that link in there in the comment section, and yeah, shoot through your question because I'll answer it in a video. But let's get into the chat. Let's see what you're saying, and let's smash it up. Let's smash it up, baby. I know I'm going to be well behind this chat because we've been doing the preview for a good old half an hour. All right, yeah, that is there's a lot of people commenting in the chat. Well, good luck to me, eh? Olivia Reed with the $8 donation. Get around you, Olivia. It's another day, another donation. So sad with the season coming to an end. No Friday night footy last night. Also coming the Lions. Yeah, get around the cat is how good, eh? Appreciate if you don't know, Olivia, as you always know. I'm just going to quickly have a look at that prelim because my team plays here next week if you get in. Wow, okay, 75-58. Yeah, that's looking likely for the Lions, but we'll see. Yeah, look, it was sad last night not having a bit of Friday footy, a bit of Friday night footy. That was sad. Next week we will get it, though, with the Storm playing of the home final on Friday night. But yeah, we are at that point of the season now where you start to get those lesser games where you're not having the Thursday night, you're not having the Sunday game usually. Next week we don't get a Saturday game, which will feel even weirder with it being separated from the Friday to Sunday. But at least we'll give everyone the opportunity to watch the AFL Grand Final with the Mighty Catters. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So yeah, appreciate you for the donor, Olivia. The Dingoes, apparently Triple M was saying that because Sanders got cut and then allowed back into the 19 this morning, he was only allowed to be 18th man and not start. Don't know if it was allowed. Well, if it was allowed, this is the first time I'm hearing about this, but if it was allowed, I'm sure they would have done that, but it is a big risk, especially that he didn't really excel in that Dolphins game. Also, he's a very young talent. This is a very crucial game, an elimination final game. At home, they lost last week, 94 minutes. If they were allowed, I'm sure that Ricky Stewart would have put him in, but I don't know. I don't know if he hasn't been allowed or if he has been and he's been chosen. It's the choice. I'm not too sure, but it's an interesting prospect regardless. Stormmate says, right, Olivia, Broncos have the privilege of losing to the Dogs next week. Well, Stormmate, we're going to have to... why is your name still Stormmate, by the way? That was last week. Why is your name still Stormmate, Daz? Can you sort this shit out? What's this? What is this? Bretton says, no, Ethan Strange, big loss, massive loss, dude. Diamond Masalo says, go to Sharks, easy, swallow the Raiders. Ooh, don't know about that. And come face... Ooh, hold on. Masala, go Sharks, easy, swallow the Raiders, and come face the Broncos at Suncorp. Ew, it's getting a bit crazy here on a Saturday, getting a little bit crazy, but it is Saturday, so I guess you can get wild up in here. Joseph says up Cronulla. Brenton says $1.77 Raiders, $2.10 Sharks with Sportsbet. That makes a lot of sense. I would agree with those odds. Again, I've gone with the upset here, but I think that's a very agreeable odds on the basis that it was like $2.80, I think, for the Sharks at one stage, and now with the Ethan Strange loss, it does make it a lot closer. UTAP Leon says, yeah, let's go Raiders and or Sharks. What? You can't go for both teams here, man. One team will win, one team will lose. There is no team, there's no two teams. We're not saying the Melbourne Storm take on the Canberra Sharks next week or the Cronulla Raiders. It's not what's happening. You have to go for one team here, UTAP Leon. Go do it for one team here. Vassman says Sharks doing it for the non-Canberrans. What, you don't like Canberra? I don't mind Canberra. I think they've played a really good, enjoyable style of footy this year for the most part. So, look, I'd like the Sharkies to win for my mum, and also for the fact that my pre-season prediction, I had them as the most balanced roster, and I did have them for the minor premiership, which obviously they didn't get. But I'd love to see the Sharks do it for mum. But I also don't mind the Raiders. I have no problem with the Canberra Raiders. I think they've had a really good season so far this year. It's just that Ethan Strange out that takes me away from, being even more difficult on who I would tip here. But there was just a weird feeling after last week. Like, if they had won that game, against the Broncos, you probably would be pretty confident the Raiders going to win this comp. I'd be pretty confident in it, especially with the way the Broncos came back and the Raiders still found a way to win. I would be saying the Raiders are nearly guaranteed, in my opinion, for a premiership there, because they were able to win the game regardless of them throwing it away late. They were able to still win the game. But because they lost the game, that's going to haunt them. And if they lose this game, Broncos fans, I think that you can attribute them getting knocked out in straight sets to you. I like Cronulla fans, I'm sure you'll do it. But Broncos fans, I think you can attribute the Raiders getting knocked out in straight sets due to you on the basis that your game was more impactful for them not being able to win the premiership. Yes, I know the Sharks would eliminate them, but the Raiders wouldn't even be here, and they would be in the third week of the finals right now, provided it wasn't that heartbreaking loss for them. So, yeah, I would have. If the Raiders had won that game, I would have said they go on to win the competition. But now that they've lost that game, I think that it'll be so detrimental to the mental side of things, and I don't know if they can get through it. But if anyone can get them to get up for it, it would be Ricky Stewart. Livy says Sharks won't be playing Broncos at Suncorp next week. Diamond, you'll play the Storm at Melbourne. Storm, you'll play the Storm in Melbourne if you win. Yes, Sharks and Raiders here. Whoever wins will play the Melbourne Storm on Friday night next week in Melbourne. And then tomorrow's game between the Canterbury Bulldogs and the Penrith Panthers. Obviously, we'll be live for that. The winner of that game will play the Brisbane Broncos on Sunday next week. A couple of weird things about the Broncos next week on Sunday is the fact that they are quite well known for struggling at Suncorp on a Sunday. They're actually quite well known for it. Titans quite constantly beat them on Sundays there, weirdly enough, at Suncorp Stadium, and that's a team that's never usually that good. I don't know what it is. I think that the Broncos are definitely going to be favourites for sure, but it's an interesting thing because the Broncos usually love playing that Friday night game or the Thursday night game at Suncorp, and that's not them next week. So it's something to pay attention to. Stormmate says, with the Raiders losing arguably their best player, this would be such a Sharks loss if it happens. It would be very reminiscent of that Sydney Roosters loss they had about 2 years ago, I think it was, when they're at Shark Park. Obviously, this is not at Shark Park, and the Raiders are a better team than Roosters, but it would be very reminiscent, where the Sharks never should have lost that game. They absolutely should have been winning that game, and they still found a way to lose that game. And that's kind of what the Sharks have done over the last, 5-odd years? 5-odd years of finals. They've been known as that team to get bounced out in straight sets or just get knocked out pretty damn well quickly. Last year, they did make the preliminary final, sure, but it wasn't great. They lost the first week of the finals to the Storm quite considerably. Next week, they beat the Cowboys, who were lucky to be in the finals, and then obviously lost in the preliminary finals to the Panthers. Who went on to win the grand final for the 4th year in a row. So that's kind of what the Sharks do, though. They very much underwhelm in finals, but last week was a real strong sign of adversity that was very different to what I've seen from them in the last 4 years since 2020. But 2020 is a throwaway year. Olivia says, we beat you twice this year. What makes you think they won't lose again? Who are we talking to? The Dingo says, apparently Triple M... I've already read that comment. Brandon says, Toby Rudolph and Matty Nichols sneaking anytime try scorers. Don't do this. Don't do a Seb Watson. Don't do a Seb Watson, Brenton. Last week at this time, we had Seb Watson telling someone to go put his life savings on Josh King anytime try scorer. Please don't do this. please don't do this. Sean says, good afternoon, mate. Get around you, Sean. Looking forward to a cracking game for the first of the week. Yes, sir. First of 2. We've got a big weekend ahead of us. Raw Grand Majesty says, which of these 2 teams do you reckon have a better chance of beating the Storm? Raiders, but I do think that either of these teams can beat the Storm. And both of these teams this year have beaten the Storm, but the Raiders played them once and beat them. The Sharks played them twice, and they split it 50-50, 1-1. One game, 31-26 to the Sharks in Cronulla. The other game, like 40-14 or whatever, to the Storm in Melbourne. Shannon says, let's go. Raiders, good luck, Sharks. Olivia says, I'm going for the Sharks tonight. Andrew says, I actually don't know much about Tarpany. Is he a good player? I'm timing you out for that. You call yourself a rugby league fan. I'm timing you out for that, Andrew. I actually don't know much about Joe Tarpany. This is what we're dealing with, lads. We are in the second week of the NRL finals. We stream every game here on the channel. We stream nearly every game on the channel. Andrew, you've been here for how long now? This is the definition of a Parramatta Eels fan, if I ever did say one. That's a definition right there of a Parramatta Squeals fan. I actually don't know much about Joe Tarpany. Is he a good player? That'll do me, Andrew. That will do me. Vasmus says, everyone like the stream. Yeah, get around to Vasmus. We've got about 18 minutes to go until the game kicks off here, guys. So hit that thumbs up button and subscribe. And don't forget to go ask that travel question on BKRtravel as well. Stormmate says, how do you not know how good Tarpany is? I've timed him out, Daz. I know that's well behind in the chat. He says, Daz, I was taking the piss. No, you weren't, Andrew. You were up it, mate. Steve says, let's go to the Sharks. Vasmus says, I think the Sharks will win our NRLW one today. Oh, well, good luck. Good luck. Oh, the Slot Donation says, does anyone know how to watch the game for free besides the pub? Well, I'm going to suggest to you the pub. Yeah, that's what I'm going to suggest to you there. That's what I'm going to suggest to you. Olivia says, Aussie Slot, Macca's has jobs going if you're interested. It always cracks me up, man. It always gets me. Sean James, the first game of the round, and it's a Saturday. We are in trouble. We are in trouble, mate. We are in trouble. But I feel like this year the NRL is tinkering with the final system so they can see what slots have the best. I really think the Sunday game next week between the Broncos and Bulldogs/Panthers, I think the best for viewership-wise will be Broncos-Bulldogs. I think that it'll go through the roof. And I think that it will actually lean towards the NRL taking a potential approach to going back to the afternoon daytime grand finals. The only issue with that is that now, because they've got the Host Plus Cup and New South Wales Cup who go against each other, then also the NRLW grand final and then the NRL grand final, it's very difficult to bring it back in. They would have to tinker around with that. But ultimately, I do think that if they start to really notice those massive dramatic viewership increases on those Sunday afternoons and throughout this final series, I think that we could be looking towards that, or just in general have shifting around games next season and beyond, which would go away from the traditional approach that we've been seeing for a long time. Libby says, do you respond with anything else other than 2 letters? 2 letters, gee whiz. AZ says, you think Sharkies will take this one? I've gone with the upset, man, but we're in the semi-finals, man. Like, anyone can win. It's a 50-50. Every game is a 50-50. If you look at stats and all that type of stuff, yeah, sure, you'll get Raiders being favourites here. But then again, technically, like I said, points for and points against. The Raiders this year have scored the 4th most amount of points, and the Sharks this year have conceded the 4th least amount of points. But you have to take the fact that Ethan Strange, who is the critical attacker of this Raiders team, he comes out of this game. So how many points do you shave off that Raiders attack throughout the year with no Ethan Strange? So I think that's a really key thing to look at there, that sure, it's 4-on-4 for attack versus defense there from Raiders to Sharks, but the key figure here is taken out. Whilst on the Sharks attack, they're 6th, and the Raiders defense, they're 6th. But the Sharks aren't losing that key attack in comparison, so it is a pretty fair game there between 6th and 6th. So that's why I do lean there with the Sharks, but it's still going to be, it's semi-final footy for a reason. This season has been extremely exciting, and also you've got to add into the fact that Raiders played 93, 94 minutes last week and lost. Do I think that the Raiders are no chance? Absolutely not. This is going to be a cracker game, and the Raiders came first place for a reason. It's just such a big out. Such a big out. Well, he says, I think Sharks will win because Strange is out. I think Strange is the attacking master with the Raiders. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah. THS says, my guy just melted my heart when he's at the Cowboys game or whatever game. Well, what do you want me to say here about the Cowboys, man? They finished in 12th position this year. They had the 2nd worst defensive team in the competition with 684 points conceded. The only team worse than them was the Titans, and you don't want to be on the same level as my Titans, by the way. You don't want to be on the same level as them with the amount of criticism I've had to give my team this year at 719. So it's like, it was a whatever game. You know, any team from 12th to 17th, and the Cowboys, the Tigers, the Rabbitohs, the Dragons, the Titans, and Knights is a whatever game. Dragons maybe not so much contextually, and the Eels prior to like maybe round 21 or round 22 or so, prior to that they were a whatever game too. You know, and then everyone above has got at least a decent amount of wins there to kind of keep them in the conversation. So it's not like I'm trying to insult you. I'm just going based off of what we've seen. Jody Pass, it's interesting to see how much losing Strange will impact them. Absolutely. Never Question says, explain the fraud alert, please. Well, your name is Never Question. You're, Daz, it's not fraud, it's scam. Daz is a Dogs fan, mind you, and it's not scam, Daz, but maybe tomorrow. But Never Question, you just asked me a question when you just said Never Question, but explain the fraud alert. So basically, the Bulldogs have shown fraudulent signs in the back part of the season. We have had a lot more teams on fraud alert, but they've either been able to work themselves off it or they've been kicked the shit out of the competition and been eliminated, right? So, there's no debate that the Dogs have shown quite a lot of fraudulent alerting through the back half of this year, and specifically across the last 2 or so months. I'm not here shitting on Lachlan Galvin as much as other people are. Actually defend him future-wise a lot more than others do, but I do think that there is absolute discussion and belief behind the fact that the Bulldogs deserve to be on fraud alert. And if you would like to argue that, please do in the chat. It's a very fast chat. I'm well behind the chat, but feel free to argue why you believe the Dogs shouldn't be on fraud alert based on the fact that last week they lost the Storm. The week before that, they lost this Sharks team. And in recent weeks, they have really struggled overall. Besides that Panthers game, but also the Panthers had 17 players out or 16 players out of their team. So, yeah, if you can argue it, please feel free to, but I disagree. AZ says, is the Sharks defense really that good, though? They're good, but I don't think it's that amazing. Well, I'm just giving you the statistics, mate. So I'm just telling you the Sharks are the 6th best defensive team in the competition. Like I said, the Sharks have given up 490 points this year. The 4th best defense in the competition. The Sharks, 490. The only teams better than them were the Melbourne Storm at 459, so 31 points less than the Sharks. The Bulldogs 414, so a whopping 80 or so points better than the Sharks. And the Panthers at 469, so about 21 points better than the Sharks defensively. Outside of that, the Broncos are close by, giving up 18 more points at 508. The Raiders are close enough by, but giving up 506 points, which is 16 points separating them. And the Warriors are only 6 points behind the 496, but I'm just giving you the stats. I'm not telling you my personal belief. I think the Sharks can open up like, slicing through hot butter at times, but that's the statistics that the Sharks did finish as the 4th best defense in the competition this year. AZ says the Roosters. Yeah, I never question. Don't listen to Daz. He's a Dogs fan. He's been begging me to put him on scam for weeks now, and I refuse to do it. I refuse to do it. AZ says the Roosters game was because the Roosters just played like arse with so many turnovers from unforced errors. No, that's a very limited thought process in my opinion. No offense, man. I think that's a very limited thought process based off of that game. At the end of the day, the Sharks played a really good game themselves, and it's like the same thing with the Dragons versus Sharks game about 5-6 weeks ago, where the Dragons, maybe even a bit longer. But the Dragons played a really clinical style of footy, which is not something you say with them much. But the Dragons played a really good style of footy and won that game, I think, 22-14 or whatever it was. And whilst the Sharks played bad, they're not mutually exclusive. The Dragons still played well and deserved to win that game, and the Sharks played bad and deserved to lose that game. Just like last week, the Sharks played a really good brand of footy that was completely opposite to what we've seen the last 4 years, where they've been able to face that adversity, not let the that same mindset of getting bounced out in straight sets or getting knocked out immediately. They had the opportunity to throw it all away. In that 40 to 50 minute mark, they had the opportunity to throw everything away. They absolutely could. I'm going to turn this air conditioning on here. They had every opportunity to throw it away. The Roosters, as they do, came out strong like they had in recent weeks against teams like the Storm context and then also the Rabbitohs context, but they still did it. So the Roosters had that chance to do that, and they did score a couple of tries, and you thought, okay, this is where the Sharks turn it over, like they've done so many times over the recent years, but they held strong, and that's why I say it's not mutually exclusive. The Roosters can play absolutely bad, but the Sharks still, on their game and their merit, they were actually very solid for the most part and didn't throw it all away like they would usually do. So that's why I was so impressed by what the Sharks did last week. Stormmate says, okay, never do you know oh, no. Johnson Parks says, I really hope both teams just destroy each other. All right, I'm going to skip through a few of this chat just because I know I was so far behind there. All right, I've got a little bit closer. Steve says, I feel the game last week playing 94 minutes plays into the Sharks' favour. Absolutely, bro. Mentally, it must be so tough to get into a good headspace. Absolutely. And that's what I'm saying. One small minute error can bring back those feelings, and it's a real big mental game here for the Raiders. A massive mental game here for the Raiders to get over what they had last week in such a physical game. And this is obviously a 6-day turnaround from that as well, because that was on Sunday. This is on Saturday, whilst the Sharks, they played in a less intense game on Saturday, and they've had the full week, which is only 1 day separating them. But the Raiders game was way more intense, way stronger in regards to what had to go into that game despite the loss. And again, the loss comes into play there, whilst the Sharks, way less intense, were able to win that game against an easier opponent, plus they've had that extra day rest. So it does come into play. It does come into play. Sean James says, mouthful of wet... Ooh, I don't know what's going on here. Mouthful of wet concrete underwater easy. I don't even know what that is. Gary says, hello from London, guys. I hope you're all doing well and looking forward to this potential cracker. How you going, Blaze? Good form? Doing all right, mate. I'm in Vietnam. I'm going to be here for about another month before I head back to Fiji. Looking forward to it. Looking forward to some beautiful beaches in Fiji, seeing my family and whatnot. And I don't know what I'm going to do next year, but, I've just been loving traveling, man, and really been enjoying it. So... we've still got plenty of rugby league content to come, though. We've still got the finals, plus we've got the internationals. I'm doing the daily post-season reviews. We did our Newcastle Knights season review yesterday. Monday, we'll have our Gold Coast Titans season review. Tuesday, we'll have our St. George Illawarra Dragons season review. Wednesday, South Sydney Rabbitohs. Thursday, I think, is the West Tigers. West Tigers, and then Friday, preliminary final. Saturday, Cowboys. Anyway, you get it, right? So that's kind of how... it's all gone, but no, I'm loving traveling, man. We've still got a bit more travel to do, and then I just recuperate over the Christmas period. We got the Ashes coming up. Well, we're going to slap you, Gary. We're going to slap you, Englishman. And don't you damn well forget it, son. When we do our Ashes streams, you better be ready. Don't be like a Martin with his champagne celebrating too early, because we slap him. Don't worry, you said Watson, Andrew, everyone. All the Aussies here, we're going to give it to you. We'll be live for every single Ashes day, all throughout the day. THS says, and here we go again with a 30-minute yap. Why do you come here? If you don't want to listen, then fuck off, man. Like, you don't have to listen here, dude. Like, it's just, what are you here for, man? Like, if you don't like it, I'm not forcing you to be here, champion. Like, the whole point of my 30-minute yap is to give you a preview of what my thoughts are going into this game from both these teams. Like, well, what? If you want to watch someone else, feel free to, man. But I'm just giving you the analysis from my opinion of what I've watched throughout this entire season, plus also going into this game. 5 minutes to go until the kickoff here, guys. Hit that thumbs up button and subscribe. And also, if you think you can do better, please feel free to go and do it yourself, mate. Stormmate says, well, I've went double or nothing, so it could be straight sets, mate. But, oh, no. It could be straight sets, mate. That's crazy. By this time tomorrow, don't bet, kids. Yeah, but the thing is, Daz, is that this is a week past your game, no? Was that Saturday? No, it was Friday. We're a week past your game, so surely you would have just been for a week, and then you'd have... Gee, you're a muppet. Steve says, shout out to Win and Seagulls. Hopefully we get the win tomorrow against North Devils to get in the grand final. Yeah, good luck with that. I would have actually streamed that if it wasn't for the fact that we had a game tomorrow. Because usually this would be like a Friday, Saturday game, but now we've got that. Usually I do that, those Host Plus Cup end of finals games, but I just don't have the ability to now with the fact these NRL, they're tinkering with it. Same thing goes for next week in the grand final. Home of the NRL, so I could really see either team winning by a small margin, but I'm going for the Sharks. That's because you're a Sharks fan, home of the NRL. AZ says, imagine, and I've tipped the Sharks too. Imagine if it goes to Golden Point and both teams have such bad stinkers at Golden Point, the game just doesn't end and they have to cancel it. Well, no, that doesn't happen. We could be here till next year. We could be here until the day we all die. They could be all in wheelchairs playing this game, but this game does not finish until it's over, until someone wins. Extra time into Golden Point. If there is no point for the next 700 years, these lads better still be alive, because otherwise this game will never end. There's no cancelling. There's no stopping the game. It just goes. It just goes. Technically speaking, we could be here until the end of the universe. Gary says, shout out to the mighty Manly Breakers Sunday cricket season. No idea who that is. Olivia says, we have a curse. THS says, so basically this game means F4 because none of them are beating Melbourne in Melbourne. You seem like a real lovely chap, THS. You seem like a real lovely chap. Home the NRL said, if Bulldogs win, wouldn't they host the prelim against Brisbane? No. The Bulldogs lost last week and the Broncos won. No. The Bulldogs get their home final tomorrow. They get the home final against the Panthers, but the Brisbane Broncos, as a top 4 team, had to play away in Canberra, so they go through the preliminary final and they get to host the winner of the Bulldogs and the Panthers. If the Bulldogs had beaten the Storm, then the Bulldogs would have got the home final in the prelim and not tomorrow. Right? You understand how it works? It's the same thing here with the... well, it's not the same thing with the Canberra Raiders because they were first, and now because... You know, they're here, they also get another home final. But I hope you understand what I'm saying. Viz says, good to see you calling another game, brother. Appreciate you, Viz. AZ says, yeah, but I mean, imagine no one can score a field goal for like 2 hours in golden time and like everyone gets injured of fatigue. Near impossible, but it would be hilarious if it did. Again, the game would still go. There is no stopping. Stanley says, Stanley Mamau from Papua New Guinea, Kimber, West New Britain. Raiders will win the Sharks. Well, appreciate all you guys in Papua New Guinea. You've been massive this year, massive. And we're looking forward to covering your Papua New Guinea games coming up soon. And also when you get a team in between 2028 and 2030, realistically. Benny West says, Raiders will be suffering from post-traumatic stress from last game. AZ says, yeah, not that part, but like hilarious in the fact that no one can score. Again, it will just keep on going. AZ says, just a hypothetical situation that's pretty much impossible. We're still going on at this. The Dark Fire says, Toby Sexton should have never been dropped. It's as simple as that. Yeah, but it's like, were you saying this at the time? Were you saying this? I'm not saying that you weren't saying this, but were you saying this at the time? Because the larger majority were saying it at the time that Toby Sexton needed to be dropped. And I will say, and I'll put my hand up and say that I didn't think that Toby Sexton needed to be dropped. And you can go back and verify this through all my streams, and the people here in the chat who are regulars, you can go back and verify this. I think that Toby should have stayed halfback this year, but I can understand and don't necessarily disagree with them going Lachlan Galvin into the future. So it's like, I understand the time pressure that they need to do to get Lachlan Galvin from the Eels, because the Eels were a very high prospect in getting Lachlan Galvin. So they had to do it at that time to snare him. I just don't agree with the fact they implemented him immediately. If you wanted to put him in the 14, like, go for it. Obviously, they've ultimately ended up dropping Reid Marnie throughout the year and bringing back and all these shenanigans. I just feel like the Bulldogs got a little bit shakiness with their immediate need to kind of do that. I think the signing was great. I didn't think Toby should have been dropped. And I didn't think that Lachlan Galvin needed to be implemented immediately, but future-wise, I get it. John Jones says, because shit for the Dogs tomorrow, no excuses. Well, big game tomorrow, mate. Massive game tomorrow. Tona says the Doggies will likely lose, but they've had a great game last week. Who knows if they lose if Crichton didn't go off? No, the Storm win that game. The Storm win that game. But, you know, the Dogs were definitely gave it a great effort, man. The Dogs gave it a great effort. All right, so the Sharkies, they're running out onto the field here, guys. We are about to get underway. We are about to get underway here. Plenty of Sharks fans down there in the nation's capital of Canberra. Stormmate says, oh, by the way, the Dogs stopped the Roosters from winning a 4th comp in a row in the 1930s. Yeah, no, that's nice. Jay actually was there. Jay Hayes was actually there at the time. Dogs stopped the 11 in a row from the Dragons, and the Dogs stopped Para from getting 4 in a row in the 80s. How many times when they stopped those teams winning 4 in a row did they actually go on to win the competition? Gary Sauna getting around from Papua New Guinea. Get around your Gary. Get around your Gary. Stormmate says, Mason Cox legacy game going on right now. What is the score of that? So they're about to do the clap. They all love the clap in Canberra. Everyone's got the clap in Canberra. 88-64. Okay, so the Lions are probably going to win it, but that's pretty impressive down there at the MCG. We'll see. Grand final next week. Lions. Ashley says Canberra win this game. Hope Ashley Klein isn't refereeing. Please tell me he's not. Who's the referee here? Who's the referee? It's Grant Atkins. It's Grant Atkins. Not that he's amazing, but I'm taking Grant Atkins over Klein. Even though it wasn't like a lot of the things people criticising last week weren't actually necessarily on Klein. But Klein is refereeing tomorrow's game, just to give you a bit of excitement about that Bulldogs and Panthers game. So everyone in Canberra has the clap, and the clap is done. All right, give us some predictions, guys, in the chat. Give me your predictions. I've got to refresh this score before Jay has a meltdown. You don't want him having a meltdown. There we go. And that represents the fact we are about to get it all under damn well way. Hit that thumbs up button, guys. Subscribe if you are new around here. Live for every single game. We've got the internationals coming up. We've got the Ashes. Plenty of sporting content. We're actually live every single day with all these postseason reviews. So get around if you aren't subscribed. David says, who is repping this game? Grant Atkins. Please don't be Ashley. I'm not reading that comment out. Josie Fart says, I don't know if... I was not expecting that comment on the follow-up, David Ong. I was not expecting that. All right, so the kickoff is going to be coming from the Sharks here. The Sharks will be kicking this up in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And the semi-finals, elimination finals are underway. Cronulla will kick it off, and the Raiders will receive this ball at the 5 through Jed Stewart. Gives it off here to Josh Papali'i, and he'll get this ball to the 15. Sudden death football. You can't go past it. Can't really talk about cricket right now in regards to that, Gary. Ashley says, what other platforms are you on? Instagram, and we've also got BKRtravel and whatnot, man. But mainly just YouTube and Instagram, mate, is what we do. Second tackle here for the Raiders. They're at the 25. And Corey Horsburgh gets ball to the 30. I do technically have a TikTok. It's just that because I've been in countries this year that actually has banned TikTok, I haven't been able to get a good rhythm of it. Like, especially India. India has TikTok banned as a platform. So it's actually impossible to use it. So I copped a bit too much of a difficulty consistency-wise. Fit tackle for the Raiders. They're at the 45. At the 45. He's on OnlyFans and Grindr. Shut up, Jay. You're an idiot. So the Sharks will get this ball here at the 13, and Will Candy will get this ball at the 20. The reason he knows that is because he's the biggest subscriber, biggest donator. So Will Candy will be here at the 20, and Grant Atkins told him to go back and play the ball at 20. Stormmate says the Dynasty Killers went on to win the comp 2 out of those 3 times I mentioned. Ah, lovely. Thank you, Daz. Could have just left out the mentioned part. You could have just told me the answer, though. Third tackle here at the 30. Oh, no. Steve's had a message removed. What has he said? I hear it's a freaking bloodbath of sackings in the Gold Coast. I hope they get it sorted. Good. They need to. Good. THS says Cronulla 13 plus. Well, we'll see. First off here, fit tackle for the Sharks are at the 45. Not an amazing set here, but it's not like they're back in their own area. So the Raiders went able to force them back, but it's a bit of no man's land in the middle there. It's a good kick. Will it sit up? Will it sit up? No, it won't. It'll be 7 tackle set. It's not a good kick there from the Sharks. The Raiders will get this ball here at the 20. Sally says, when will the game start? The game has started. We're 2 minutes into the game. Stormmate says, NBL round 1 is where it's at. Person, new logo looks like an STD. Thank you, Daz, mate. Thank you, mate. So first tackle now for the Raiders. 0 tackle, sorry, for the Raiders at the 28. Michael says, I got Hines, Eero, Starling, and Young on my multi. Well, I hope you had a penalty for the Raiders in your multi because it would have just come off. Penalty to the Raiders at the 28. And that's huge there for Savelio Tamale picking up the penalty. Yeah, I travelled to India as well, mad country. Oh, you've been, have you? Yeah, no, I was in earlier this year. I went for 3 months. I was in Delhi, Agra, Jaipur, and Udaipur. Loved Udaipur. Other 3, I've got my criticisms, but Udaipur I absolutely loved, man. Then I was in Thailand for 2.5 months, and then I've been in Vietnam for nearly on 3 months now, plus also been in Malaysia for a bit. So, yeah, it's been a hectic year, man. Was also in Vegas with the Sharks taking on the Penrith Panthers and the Raiders taking on the Warriors. Second tackle here at the 35 for the Raiders. They get the first attacking opportunity of the game after that penalty. Joe Tarpany, Andrew Backhouse's favourite player, third tackle at the 24. Mr. Pete Corey's the Sharkies and my Bronco. We'll see. Jamal Fogarty, Zach Hoskin, good run there. He gets the ball to the 11. It's fourth tackle. Okay, let's see this Sharks defense. And let's see this Raiders attack with no Ethan Strange. This is the biggest thing that is the biggest question mark on this game. No Ethan Strange. Where does the attack leave for the Raiders? Tom Starling, he'll go to the left-hand side. Jamal Fogarty. Fogarty gives it across here to Grassy McGrath. Goes backwards here. It drops it. But there's a lot of Sharks fans. Damn, dude. Damn, Cronulla turned up here. Where are you at home, mind you, at Shark Park? So fifth tackle, they've gone back to the 35. That's great work there from the Sharks, but a problem. Jamal Fogarty didn't have Ethan Strange there to get that ball to and hit the grass, and then they lost about 30 metres. So they're at the 30. Sharks ball here, first tackle. But look at all those Sharks fans, dude. Ali said, couldn't pay me enough to go to India. Look, I understand your thought process, but I will tell you that it's, penalty to the Sharks. I'll tell you, there's a penalty to the Sharks coming up here at the 40 for an offside against the Raiders. I understand what you're saying, but India is a very diverse country, and there is a lot of negatives that are true, but there is also a lot of things that are completely untrue about it. Udaipur was beautiful. I wouldn't necessarily recommend like Delhi or Agra past one day to see the Taj. The Sharks have beat the 35, but it's all, each person's preference. Sharks now at the 40. And now they go to the left-hand side. Adam Fanua-Blake, they'll be at the 30. So they're going to get the real first. Well, they'll get the second attacking opportunity of the game. But Raiders didn't impress with their first one. So it's going to be Toby Rudolph. He'll be 20 metres out from the line, second tackle. I do think Ricky would have lost his shit at the loss last week. Oh, they are going to call knock on here against Toby Rudolph. They are going to say a knock on here against Toby Rudolph. He's shaking his head pretty significantly. I don't think you challenge this 5 minutes in, though. Oh, it's a risky one. I wouldn't. Even if you're right. Even if you're correct here, Toby, I wouldn't. Sharks, I wouldn't challenge it. Well, even if you're correct, probably isn't the right terminology. But I wouldn't risk it if you have a smidgen of doubt, is what I would say. Yeah, exactly right, Ashley. You have to experience it. I understand in regards to India. Ali says, getting around it from Papua New Guinea and Goroka, got a Sharks. Ali Senior and Ali Jr. get around you. All right, so the Raiders now at the 20. Now it's going to be 25 metres out, first tackle. Good run from Matty Tomoko, actually, to the 30. Brenton score a try, him up at... Listen here, Brenton. Toby Rudolph. And who was the other one for the Raiders you got on? Was it Morgan Smithies? No, it was Matty Nicholson, wasn't it? Why? Why have you done this to yourself? Why have you put a bet on the two most unlikely scorers to score? Third tackle of the Raiders at the 50. They give it to Corey Horsburgh, and Horsburgh is going to be dead smack on the 50 again, fourth tackle. Until you get used to the food, sneezing is risky in India. Oh yeah, I can't talk too in depth about India here on this stream, but obviously I've got my BKRtravel channel where you can ask any questions you want on the video that I just put up this morning. So Jamal Fogarty, he's going to put that one up in the air. Not a great kick there from Fogs, but it's in an area where it's going to be allowed to bounce, and the Raiders will then knock it back to the Sharks. Oh, it was risky, but the Sharks do get the ball at 23. Jeez, that was risky. Toby scored last week and Matty scored heaps early in the year. Ah, yes, okay. So that justifies a prop in Toby Rudolph and a bench player in Matty Nicholson to score. That, yeah, 100%. 100%. Well, good. Best of luck, Branson. Best of luck, mate. So fourth tackle here, and they'll be at the halfway point. Libby says, I heard a conspiracy theory about Ricky's gum. About Ricky's gum? I'm not too sure. Norman says Green Machine by 6+. All right, we'll see. Fifth tackle of the Sharks, the 45. And Braden Trindle, he's going to whack that one up in the air. Good kick into the corner. And it'll be an easy one there for Jed Stewart, but he'll get rocked at the 10. The Sharks are seemingly getting a bit of this earlier battle here. It's not like they've got huge field position. They would have if Toby Rudolph hadn't knocked that ball on. But it does seem like the Sharks are getting off to a bit of a better start here, minus that penalty and knock on. They are getting off to probably a more positionally better start. Third tackle over the Raiders, the 15. He's always chewing gum. Yeah, but what's the conspiracy theory, Olivia? What's the conspiracy that you're suggesting? Tom Starling, great run here. Maybe high tackle. Penalty, high tackle. I think Grant Atkins took a little bit to call that. Toby Rudolph, oh no, it's not one of those games, Toby, is it? It's not Toby Rudolph, for people who are the uninitiated. Toby Rudolph is either very good or very bad. And I'm getting concerned right now that this could be a very bad game for him. He's knocked the ball on in the first 6 minutes of this game, and then he's given away a high tackle penalty in the first 7 minutes of this game. I'm getting nervous. Bulldogs fans, you know what I'm talking about in regards to Toby Rudolph. He quite literally won you a game off his own back like 2-3 years ago for the Sharks. He won the Bulldogs the game off of his own back. So second tackle for the Raiders. He did score a try last week though, but overall he can be very good. But when he's bad and when he's off, yikes. So right-hand side, Corey Horsebar, be third tackle at the 32. There's something about him only chewing the same piece. He keeps it... What? He chews the same piece of gum and wraps up and pulls it out each game. He calls it his lucky charm. That's gross. That's gross. How long? How long, you reckon? Hudson Young now will be at the 10 on fit tackle. Here's a chance here for the Raiders, but where's their attack without Ethan Strange? Tom Starling. This is usually what Jamal Fogarty would do anyway. Kick it on fifth in this area. It'd be usually down to him. Where's the ball? Goes backwards. Sharks get the ball. Molitalo taking it down to the 5. Like that area there, like Jamal Fogarty will usually be the one to kick it. It was just Ethan Strange would be the one to get that floating play out the back and passing it, right? Fogarty's more of the kicker. Strange is the X factor. So far, Jamal, when he did try to pass out to the left-hand side, which is what Strange would do, he passes to the ground, hit the grass. This is great defense here from Canberra. 4 tackle at 10 metres for the Sharks. They haven't been able to get their own 10 here on 4 tackle. Now fit tackle, and Toby Rudolph gets the ball to the 15 on fit tackle. But Jamal Fogarty kicking wide. Is that going to be a 20-40? No, the Raiders will get that ball at the 35. And KO Weeks will bring it out here to the 50. That's what we saw last week with... Well, it was Sharks Roosters, actually. I remember, yeah, Sharks got held in their own 20. They have this real solid knack of losing that meter gain and losing that forwards battle in their own 20. And we saw it last week, and they were just able to kind of hold out from it. But that was more the 40 to 50-minute mark. This is in the first 10 minutes here. Jamal Fogarty at the 25 gives it to Zach Hosking, and Hosking's going to be 18 minutes out for tackle. 10 minutes gone in the first half, guys. 30 minutes to go of the first half. Hit that like button and subscribe if you are new around here. Hudson Young, he's going to bring this ball to the 10. Gets the offload away. And Simi Sasungi, 8 minutes out, fit tackle. Okay, Jamal Fogarty, come on. You guys get something going here. Starling to Jamal. Jamal kicks this ball across. Knocked back here from the Raiders. Still fifth. KO Weeks gets it across, hits the grass. Sharks get the ball. They don't have the finished product right now. The Raiders don't have the finished product. The Randos, I'm scared because I'm a Sharky supporter, but Canberra might actually win because they're angry and salty about their loss. Can go both ways, man. It can go both ways. The loss can be so detrimental mentally that when they make a mistake, it can really, capitulate their team, mentally speaking, in this game. But also, yes, they could be angry and all that kind of jazz. But angry and salty about their loss more so is terminology you'd use in the middle part of the year for a big-time upset loss like that. Not necessarily here where the aggression is going to be full on from the outset anyway in an elimination final. You shouldn't need to be focusing. You should actually try to, as a Raiders, with the Raiders, they should be trying to ignore every single aspect of last week's game, because you should have the mentality of what you've just referenced now anyway, at this point of the year. Do you understand what I'm saying? Gemma Lowe, so I think Canberra want revenge, and I know there's very little chance, but a Raiders-Broncos grand final will be wild. Sure, but again, what I just said there is that ultimately they should have the best mentality now, regardless of what happened last week. It shouldn't come down to being angry or want revenge or salty. We are in elimination final football. You can't be thinking about that. That's more so terminology you use in the middle part of the year. Raiders now will be at the 30, Joe Tarpany. But I get what you guys are saying. I just don't think that should be a high preference here for the Raiders. Fit tackle here for the Raiders at the 30. They roll it back to Tom Starling. Starling back to Fogarty. And Fogarty will put it to about the 10. It's a good kick. Knock on from the Sharks. Raiders might score here. Oh, he's going to be so close. It's going to be 0 tackle here. Literally 1 meter out. They're going to be short. That's a double movement. Oh, no. You've gone and done a double movement. Oh, my gosh. That's so silly. Oh, dude, on 0 tackle, the Raiders have gone and made a double movement here. It'll give away a penalty. That's ridiculous, Similar Tamale. That's unthinkable, man. Like, it's close, but I don't think it gets there, and then he's going to make a double movement. He's already acknowledging that he's made a double movement here. Yeah, short, and then he's going to move it now. Yeah, it's a double movement. And it's ridiculous. It's a penalty, Sharks. That's crazy to do. It's double movement. There's no debate about it. I don't even know why we're still looking at this. His arm's clearly short, and then he progresses the arm. Yep, short. And there's a clear promotion. Correct. So that is a massive blown opportunity there for the Raiders, where they had a 0 tackle, literally 1 metre out after the mistake from the Sharks, and then Sivile Tamale has got a bit too greedy. His arms come to the ground, and then he's progressed the ball for a double movement there. So no try to the Raiders, and a penalty come up for the Cronulla Sharks. Sean says, professional player, schoolboy move. Well, you usually will see that from forwards, not necessarily backs so much, because backs have a little bit more self-control when it comes to scoring tries, because they score tries more frequently, whilst forwards, when they're there, their job is just to run the ball hard, and if they get close, sometimes they just kind of reach out. You more so see it with forwards than backs, but that was pretty poor from Tamale, yeah. Second tackle here for the Sharks. They'll get this ball to the 35. Now third tackle at the 40. Gary, it's a tight game so far, and a bit of magic or mistake. Well, this is semi-final football, man. Elimination finals. You're going to get tight games. And Toby Rudolph, he's going to bring this ball out to the 45 on fourth tackle. William said, Cronulla Sharks, go get him. Not reading out Dad's mate's comment. Sharks here. Teague Wilton to the 40 on fifth tackle. Ashley says, I wouldn't hate the Sharks so much if Gallon was a good bloke. Well, Gallon's been retired for years now, man. He's been retired for years. What was it, 2019, his last year? Oh, good kick there from Cronulla, and KO Weeks off the field that 1 metre out from his own line and gets out to the 5, first tackle. That was, he retired 6 years ago? Maybe 6 years ago. Still salty? So what team do you support, Ashley? I can't remember. Which team do you support? It's still salty. Are you a Tigers fan when you kicked the field goal against him in 2019? Or maybe a Storm fan for 2016, or Eels? Why? Why do you hate Galvin? As an Eels fan. The Sharks will bring this ball out here to the 30. Don't hate me. No, I hate Andrew. we hate Andrew. But also, yeah, it's kind of weird there. That left-hand side here, Kale Ero at the 35, and he'll get taken down. 37 metres out, second tackle. Queenslander. Fair enough, Ashley. Fair enough. Brendan says, did you say this was going to be high scoring before the game, Blaze? I actually didn't say anything about high scoring or low scoring. I didn't actually get to that. That's a bit of a missed preview there for mine. I don't know. Usually, 1 second here, right inside. The Sharks have a chance here. Sione Katoa at the 50, the 45. He steps back on the inside. Here with the 40, pushes away from another tackle. Still third tackle here. Gives it to Nico Hines. Hines here at the 40, looking for someone, looking to a hole. Teague Wilton with a great run there. Great run at the 20, the 15, the 10. Teague Wilton crunched down at the 10, fourth tackle. Huge run from Teague Wilton and a great pass from Nico Hines. He waited for the pass and got it. Right-hand side here. They give it Ronaldo Molitalo. Off to Nico Hines. Braden Trindle. He dinks it through. Oh, dude, no. It's a knock on Raiders. They're lucky. Sharks, you're very lucky. That was the worst thing that Braden Trindle could have done, but luckily enough for them, Corey Horsburgh knocked the ball on, so it will be Sharks' ball. So they'll be 15 minutes out. Ooh, Braden Trindle's bleeding from one of his eyes. Bleeding from one of his eyes. But yeah, Brendan, I would probably lean towards. I probably would have lent towards like a similar margin to what we saw from them previously, 24-20. I probably would have lent to. I just don't know how much the Raiders can score with no Strange. So, I could easily see an 18-10 here for the Sharks. I could also see a 2-pointer. Will Kennedy is 5 metres out from the line, first tackle. Very difficult with Strange being out to gauge where the Raiders are at attacking-wise, but you should know where the Sharks are going to be at attacking-wise. 6 again for the Sharks. They're 4 metres out from the line. First tackle. Blake Brayley at the back here to Colhoun, then to Trindle. Trindle gives it off into Kale Ero. Kale Ero goes it himself. He'll be 8 metres out here from the line. 8 metres away here from the line. And now it will be Adam Fanua-Blake. Yeah, good job, Jay. 8 metres out, 5 metres out here on third tackle for Cronulla. Blake Brayley. Underneath again for the Sharks and Colhoun. He is going to be 5 metres out for tackle. They can't break through this defence at the moment. Blake Brayley, short ball, crash play, Toby Rudolph. Oh my gosh, Brenton, you might have just had a heart attack. He was just short. Blake Brayley at the back here. They've got numbers. They've got numbers. They've got numbers. Will Candy goes through himself, flicks it at the back. Sharks still with the ball. They push off one. They push off two. Jesse Raymond flicks it at the back here. Katoa. Katoa kicks it through. Raiders pick it up, and Raiders ball the 8. Oh, he's gone over the sideline. Sharks will get the ball again. Wow, this is really impressive. This is impressive defense here from the Raiders, but the Sharks, you know, they're throwing a bit at them. The Sharks are still able to get the offload away. Their kicks haven't necessarily gone to plan with their little dinkers like Trindle and also then Sione Katoa. Raiders knock it on. The Sharks, you have to come away with something here. You have to capitalise. You have to capitalise. Lagan says, game's looking neck and neck tonight between the Titans and the Sharks. Yeah, exactly right, Lagan. Exactly right. See, he gets it. It's one of the first times ever that Logan Borsax has got it, but he gets it today. Gets it for the first time. Blake Brayley to Will Candy at the 10. Oh, and then they knocked the ball on. Raymond literally off of the scrum knocks the ball on. Literally off of the scrum will knock the ball on, and the Raiders will get the ball at the 15. That's wild work. That is wild work there from Raymond. Grass game so far. Yeah, Grassy's getting involved in the finals right now. Grassy loved a good Roosters Sharks game last week. Loves the Roosters, but second most errors in the comp this year. Loves the Roosters. The old Grass McGrass. Also loves the Cowboys. But he's loving it tonight. Loving it tonight. All right, so Raiders will get the scrum feed here. 12 minutes out from their own line. Stormman says, how are the Titans playing the second week of the finals when they've never lost a game ever? Wouldn't that mean they are in the prelim? No, we're just deciding to have a little bit of a laugh, and we allowed, you know, the Broncos to go through. We said, go on, mate, off you pop, young one. So we let them go through. But the Titans are just trying to be fair, mate. You know, just trying to give other teams an opportunity, but you know, ultimately, it just, this is what we do. 4 tackled here for the Raiders at the 35, and they'll give it up to Hudson Young, and Hudson Young will get this ball to the 50 on fit tackle. Batas says, Ashley is Icky, my cousin. I don't know what Icky, my cousin, means, but she is a diehard. Oh, that's a big kick. Oh, Will Candy will knock the ball on off the kick. Gee, Sharks, you know how to tank this one. You had a good bit of momentum going, and then you knock the ball on, and then you knock the ball on again. Will Candy will knock the ball on at the 10, and the Rays will go on the attack. She is a diehard Sharks, yet supports Queensland. Maybe she was following the Sharks before Queensland teams came into the comp. Maybe. Well, is Ashley from Queensland? Like, if they were born and lived their entire life in New South Wales, then surely you'd be a New South Wales fan. But if you were born or lived your entire life in Queensland, then that would make sense. All right, so the Raiders here, 10 minutes out, 4 errors for the Sharks so far, 3 errors for the Raiders. This is not semi-final. This is not semi-final quality in regards to the error rate. So 10 minutes out here from the line for Canberra. First tackle, Corey Horsburgh. He'll get this ball to the 3. But again, we've had concerns about this Raiders attack so far today, and we knew that coming in with the no Ethan Strange. 6 again here for Canberra. No excuses. Zach Hosking into the line. He's 4 minutes out from the line. First tackle. 20 minutes to go with the first half here, guys. Hit that thumbs up button and subscribe if you're new around here. Left-hand side, they give out the back here. Jamal Fogarty, short ball into the line. Hudson Young, he'll be at the 5 on second tackle. Set restarts. Both teams have had 1. Tom Starling to Joe Tarpany. And lucky it wasn't a forward pass, to be fair, but they're 2 minutes out from the line, third tackle. A lot of errors in this game from both teams. At the back to Jamal Fogarty. Jamal Fogarty gives it to KO Weeks. KO Weeks steps, runs it at Trindle. I like that he tried to target him there, but fourth tackle here at the 3. Tom Starling, they go for a quick crash play and held up over the line. Held up over the line. So it'll be fit tackle back at the 10 for Canberra. You can tell there's a noticeable difference. Noticeable difference without Ethan Strange. So Raiders here, 10 metres away. And they kick it over the top. Good area, good kick. The Sharks get it. Jesse Raymond comes up with it at the 3. And it's a penalty to the Raiders. A penalty to the Raiders here. Grant Atkins, what? What have you called here, Grant Atkins? Offside? Obstructing kick chase. Can we show this again, please? They're going to play on here. They're not taking the 2. Oh, my gosh. Canberra have decided to go for the try here. That's crazy. That's crazy. Take the 2 every day of the week in a finals game like this. You better come up with points here, Raiders. That's wild to do. First tackle here at the 5, and Starling gives it to Jamal Fogarty. Fogarty underneath to Joe Tarpany. You better come up with some points here, Canberra. You better come up with some points because that's a bold call in a finals match like this. Second tackle here for the Raiders. They're 5 metres away from the line. Tom Starling goes quickly left-hand side. Hudson Young, I understand the thought process. Third tackle, 4 metres away. Tom Starling, he will go at the back of Jamal Fogarty. Fogarty now to Josh Papali'i, and Papali'i gets away from a couple, but then he'll be taken down to the 10 for tackle. You better score here, Canberra. Tom Starling at the back of Jamal Fogarty. Fogarty, KO Weeks goes at himself, and he'll be 6 metres out of the line, 5th tackle. Underwhelming set from the Raiders. Jamal Fogarty kicks it across here into a good area again, though, and the Sharks will knock it on, I'm pretty certain. So this might be, this is going to be 0 tackle here for the Raiders. It's 0 tackle for the Raiders. The Raiders get another attacking opportunity. They go to the right-hand side. I think they actually had plenty of space on the left, but they didn't go for it. Raiders 2 metres out, and a penalty to Canberra for a high tackle. Take the 2, Canberra. Take the 2. Take the 2, dude. Take the 2. So this is a high tackle here from Toby Rudolph. What have I been telling you guys? When he's off, he's off. I'd take him off. Craig Fitzgibbon should know this too. I would take Toby Rudolph off. That's 2 penalties and a knock-on in the first 20 minutes of the game. When Toby Rudolph is bad, he is bad. When Toby Rudolph is good, he is good. I would take him off right now. I would take him off and tell him to have a sit down. I genuinely would. I genuinely would. Toby Rudolph is a very, very, very well-known player that when he is playing like this, he will play like this for the full 80. Put him on the bench for another front row forward right now is what I would do. I genuinely would. It's way too ill-disciplined, and he's already had an error. It's immediate. This is what he does. They're going to go for a try here, the Raiders. Oh my gosh. Wow. The Raiders are going for the try. They've just said no to a 2 in front of the post. They've said twice no to the 2. Wow. First tackle here for Canberra, 9 metres out. You have to score here. And the Raiders, Hudson Young, second tackle here at the 4. If you lose this game by like 2 points or whatever, you're going to have nightmares. Simi Sasungi now, 3 metres away from the line. 3 metres away, third tackle. Tom Starling to Jamal Fogarty. Jamal Fogarty steps on the inside, and Rudolph misses a tackle. I'm telling you, take him off. 4 tackle here at the 5. Jamal Fogarty rolls back to Tom Starling. He will give it a short ball, crash play, and they'll be short 1 metre out. This is good defence here. Oh, maybe this is a try. Oh, it's actually a try out of the post. Corey Horsburgh has actually rolled this ball. This is, Raiders, you have just gotten so lucky here. This is so lucky, Canberra. I congratulate you for the luck of it, but those attacking sets were really poor. The Sharks were coming up better defensively. You clearly aren't getting the attacking going. This is a grind of a game. You should have gone for the 2, but hindsight-wise, Corey Horsburgh is going to get that try, and that's fine. But it's just really kind of odd their decision-making to continuously go for it. But luckily enough, they do get a try here to Corey Horsburgh, who was tackled before the line, but just is able to roll his arm over under the post. Yeah, no, it's fine. It is fine. That's so weird. Rudolph is the RCG limited edition. Oh, jeez, that's crazy going. 4-0. It's about to be 6-0. You got lucky, Canberra. Take it and run. You got lucky. Logan Paulsack says that Toby Rudolph game against the Dogs last year when we pretty much won the game off him was the greatest day of 2024. I mentioned that before, that specific game. Togan says, you can be a Queensland fan, but you're still a New South Walesman. It's state of origin, not state of preferred origin squad. Incorrect. That is not how it works. The state of origin for the players is built off of where you play your first professional rugby league game. There is so much more at it. There's so much more at it than just where your state of origin for where you're born. It's not about that, because otherwise Tino will be playing for New South Wales. And obviously Peter Sterling would have played for Queensland, mind you, from Toowoomba. It's not about where you are born. Right? It's not. Like, for example, I was born in Cogra. I lived there for 2 weeks as a baby, and then for the entirety of the rest of my life, post that 2 weeks, I lived in Queensland. Fuck no, am I New South Welshman? Absolutely not. That's just not how it works, and that's not how the actual rules of state of origin work either. I don't understand this argument that people go with. It's just not how state of origin works, and it never has been. Even prior to 1980, the rules were situated in regards to the players played for the state of the professional team they were playing for. So it's never gone down. It's never been about where you were born. It's never been about it. So this kind of the thought process that people come up with is actually incorrect. It always has been. So the Raiders now get this ball to the 15. If you were born in New South Wales and you've lived your entire life in New South Wales, sure, you're a New South Welshman. If you're born in Queensland and you lived your entire life in Queensland, then you are a Queenslander. If you're born and raised in New South Wales and are a Queenslander, then that doesn't make sense. That's the issue. It's not how it works. Shannon says, bro, scoring points is what they have been doing all season. Why change? What are you talking about? Are you saying they should have gone for the try, or are you saying they should have gone for the 2 points? Stormmate said it's state of origin, not state of preference, you moron. Weird to tell you. Scott James says, BK, would you ever do a live stream walking around Vietnam? Enjoy your videos. Well, check out BKRtravel, man. Maybe you'll see it. So, fifth tackle out to 45. BKRtravel in the pinned comment, my guy. So, Jamal Fogarty, he'll kick that ball down to the corner, and they're going to be at the 15. Will Candy grabs this one. He's kind of a big reason as to why the Raiders did score there, because he knocked the ball on in the 10. Tony says, no, any Origin fans who are traders deserve to be deported. These are the ones people should be protesting. Do you have that thought process about players that play for your state, whether it be internationally or born interstate, that play for your club, but play for your state? If you have that same thought process, then fine. You're entitled to your opinion. It's wrong, but you're entitled to your opinion in regards to that. Leon says, I'm really impressed by the Sharks' defense. They should have been playing Penrith instead. Would give them a crack. This has been really impressive from the Sharks. It's actually unlucky they conceded that try, but ultimately the Sharks have still been very error-ridden, which is what we see from them quite a lot. The Raiders have surprisingly enough been a lot of really error-ridden as well. Toby is off, Brenton. Yeah, it makes sense. You have to take him off. He's been so poor. So the Raiders, Jed Stewart, he'll get this ball here at the 10 on first tackle. Just a sketch town, North Brisbane. Tumi Kamach says, you're spot on with state of origin by first club. Yep. Lagan says that he wants a timeout for 5 minutes. All right, Lagan. We'll see you in 5 minutes, mate. I'll give you what you want. Third tackle now for the Raiders, and they're going to be at the 20. Go to Panthers. Shannon says, yep, go for the try, not the 2 points. But that doesn't make any sense, Shannon. You're suggesting that a team should play the way they've been playing all season with their completely different spine, because Ethan Strange is not in their 5'8" right now. There's no way in a finals game, and again, in hindsight, they have gotten the 6 points here, so it has worked out. Right, on the second attempt, mind you, on the second attempt of not taking the 2. But every team in a situation like this will... Maybe not every team, because obviously we've just seen that a team hasn't done it. Sharks get the ball here at the 25, the ball goes to the sideline. Maybe not every team, because we've just seen the Rays do it. But it is so against the grain, and it's also very against what Ricky Stewart has done for many years now. Ricky Stewart has always suggested to go for the 2 points. This year, I've seen the Rays take many 2-point opportunities, but in this most crucial game here, where they're losing a heavy portion of their attack in Ethan Strange, they decide to go and attack rather than take the 2 points in a game that was 0-0 after 23 minutes. 23 minutes, it was 0-0, so obviously that's representing this game is going to be extremely close. Again, in hindsight, they have scored. But it's a very odd decision without that hindsight. Very, very odd decision that does actually go against what the Rays have done. It does. So the Sharks now get this ball here to the 40 on 4th tackle. That is actually not what the Rays have done this year. Kate says, am I tripping on that first try? The tackle was already complete. No, it was a try. No, it's fine. Nico Hines will get this ball here to the 30. And he's lost the ball, apparently. Well, Hines is yelling out to challenge this immediately. He's yelling out to challenge this immediately. This is a ballsy call to challenge this. If you do challenge it, you better hope you keep this ball, because otherwise you've lost a challenge for something that was already 4th, 5th tackle. Coke Man says, Cronulla score next. Well, we'll see what happens with this challenge, really. Sure, it's the first sack whacking for the weekend. Yep. Coke Man says 2 points is half a try. He has lost this ball. Why'd you challenge this? Why'd you challenge this, Nico? You're going to lose this challenge. Oh, yeah, I don't understand why Nico just challenged that call. You just lost your challenge. You just lost your challenge here, Nico. That's a crazy challenge to make, especially going on to 5th tackle. Going on to, Nico, you got to do better than that, man. Going on to 5th tackle, what do you really benefit from that? What are you really benefiting from that? Leon says, yeah, it could have been costly. It could have been. Again, in hindsight, it wasn't, but it absolutely could have been, and it is against what the Raiders normally do, actually. Batas says, Caboolture is a suburb, not a sketch town. I don't even know what's happening there. Coke Man says, SF games, so far games are defensive, low scores traditionally. SF games? I don't know what SF means. SF game, semi-final games are defensive low scores traditionally, so any points are good. Exactly right. That's what I'm saying. Ahead of it, you're taking the 2 every day of the week. But again, hindsight goes against that. Third tackle here for the Raiders, the 50. Especially with the context in regards to the spine of Canberra. The fourth tackle now, and also with the fact the Raiders weren't attacking well for a large portion of this game so far. So right-hand side, Jamal Fogarty, they'll be at the 45, and now they'll be at the 40. The 40 on fit tackle. I still can't believe Nico challenged that call just then. It was kind of a pointless challenge. So that will go to the 5. Good hit there. Oh, Will Kennedy gets away from 1, and then he'll be taken down to the 5 first tackle. Hosea says, who scored the first try for the Raiders? Corey Horsburgh. Corey Horsburgh scored the first try for the Raiders. A lot of luck involved, but it was a lot of strength involved too, and it was really good for him to be able to roll that ball over. UTAP Leons is still early. Go for the try. It's not usually how games like this work, though, man. Sharks, big blow to Sharks. Confident if it works. Also, the big boys will tire later on. Use them now. Sure, but again, there was no score for 20 minutes. Oh, jeez. He's lost the ball, Hazelton. He's out. Oh, my gosh. He's out. Tom Starling has forced the... He's in trouble here, Hazelton. How's happening? Hazelton's not coming back. God bless him, dude. God bless him. Can we get the camera off him? This is not great to watch. He's out, dude. He doesn't know where he is. Oh, it's a head clash. Oh, it's a head clash. Yeah, no. Mick Ennis is saying his initial thoughts with Tom Starling hit him with his shoulder to knock him out. Bro, Tom Starling is very much shorter than Tom Hazelton. That was never going to be the case, but it was a head clash, and God bless him because this was bad. Jack says, you would have to be dumb to challenge a strip this year. Opposition can literally 2 hands strip the ball from your grip, and the bunker will say you clean dropped it every time. Yeah, you're right, Jax. That is what happens. Because it did look like his hand was there and it was making a movement at it, but you do see a lot of the time, you will see what they just called as that being a no strip and it just be a tackle being made. Leon says, does this prove Ethan Strange more important than Fogarty? Well, I've been saying all year that I think that Ethan Strange is more important than Fogarty. I think Fogarty is a good stabiliser, and I think they work together well, but I think Ethan Strange is the crux of their attack. Tom Hazelton is still down here, by the way, guys. He's still down. That's really unfortunate. Oh, and then you've got Zach Hosking coming in over the... Not Zach Hosking. Hudson Young coming over the top. What are they talking about? They're saying that they think that maybe Tom Starling could... There's no way they're going to take Starling off for a head clash. It's an accidental head clash. He obviously hasn't deliberately come in with his head to hit him across the head. Starling is screaming his head off. Yeah, well, in games like this, man, it's going to be fired up. Yeah, effectively, it was a head... So again, don't start that. I know you're trying to refer to last week. Don't start that. Don't start that debate. Tony says, kind of look like a head, but is that not a penalty? No way. There's no way that Tom Starling deliberately did that. So maybe Twick and I've actually misread your comment. And I thought you were referring to last week. You're actually making a genuine comment. I don't think that Tom Starling is deliberately trying to throw his head at another player's head there. I don't believe it. I think it's a big stretch. You would have to assume intention there, which is absolutely a send-off in that period, especially with how it ended up. There's no way you could assume intention for that. So first tackle for the Raiders at the 22. It's also out of character, Tom Starling, in my opinion. I wouldn't, yeah. So Morgan Smithy's going to be second tackle here, 15 minutes out. No, 6 again here for the Raiders and Tom Starling. Here we at the 13, gives that offload to KO Weeks, and KO Weeks will be at the 10 on first tackle. 10 minutes to go here in the first half, guys. Hit that thumbs up button. Subscribe if you're new around here. Don't forget to go check out BKRtravel as well in the pinned comment. They go to the left-hand side, and Hudson Young, he'll be 8 minutes away from the line. 8 metres away. Tom Starling off to Jamal Fogarty. Fogarty across here to Morgan Smithies, and Smithies is going to be 8 metres away from the line. No, 10 metres out, third tackle. I don't think it was deliberate either, but yeah, definitely unfortunate. Yeah, Hudson Young, good run, but he gets taken in a good tackle from Nico and Adam Fanua-Blake. Nearly a mistake there from Canberra. Nearly a mistake. Jamal Fogarty here at the 15. He'll give it underneath to Morgan Smithies and fifth tackle. Again, this has been an underwhelming attacking set here from Canberra. 8 metres out here from the line. Do they go to... They have to go to the air, realistically, because they don't have the passer. Oh, they do go to the pass. They give it out to Tomoko. Tomoko kicks that ball over the top. It's going to bounce over the dead ball line. And this is what you lose without Ethan Strange. That right there. Sharks defensively today have been very good. Attacking-wise have been very poor. Tom Hazelton is a Cat 1, so that will mean that if the Sharks do progress here, he won't play next week. So Tom Hazelton will not be back for the rest of this game, guys. Will not be back for the rest of this game. So Kale Iro, he'll bring this ball out here to the 33 on first tackle. 9 minutes to go the first half. And this is a decent enough set shaping up here for the Sharks. It's Molitalo who gets this ball to the 40. They've not been in a good area for a long time, the Sharks, really. And Teague Wilton, they are finding some good space through Teague and this left-hand attack for the Sharks. Third tackle at the 48. Braden Trindle to Adam Fanua-Blake, and Adam Fanua-Blake here, he'll get this ball to the 44, fourth tackle. And now Blake Brayley, Braden Trindle, underneath to Braden Hamlin-Uwelli. Good offload there from Hamlin-Uwelli. I love that. Adam Fanua-Blake picks it up. He'll get this ball to the 30, to the 28 on fifth tackle. Okay, we need to see a good kicking game here. We haven't seen too many kicks here from the Sharks so far at all. Braden Trindle will put that ball up into the air. It's a good area. It's a good area. It's a drop ball from the Raiders. The Sharks get the ball to Braden Trindle. He gives out the back here. It's 6 again. No, it's going to be the knock-on from the Raiders. It's a knock-on from the Raiders. They'll come back for the advantage. Coke says, damn, I wanted this to be a really close game. Looks like Raiders may cruise to win. No way, is that what we're seeing here? Or maybe this isn't a knock-on. Bro, we've watched 32 minutes. The game's only 6-0, and it was an extremely kind of obscure try we saw with the Raiders. How are you getting the same viewpoint that the Raiders are going to blow away with this win? That's not necessarily what I'm saying right now. I think the Raiders right now have been more confidently better in the first half, but does it touch his hand there? Jet Stewart might not knock this ball on. They have challenged this. I don't know if he actually touches it. And then Trindle, yeah, it doesn't touch the hand. So it would have been 6 again, but because Trindle has passed the ball into the Raiders player, it's going to be Raiders ball here at the 10. Yeah, he shouldn't have kept that ball alive. He should have just gone down with it. Seems as the Raiders going to fade tonight. Also another thought process to keep in mind. Kate says, Sharks going to rush Fogarty, shut him down. They have. Fogarty has been quite limited in the majority of this game so far. Brent says, Channel 9 audio gone. I'm not too sure. I'm watching a watch on NRL.com, so I don't have Channel 9. I have the KO, effectively. So second tackle now for the Raiders. They'll be at the 13. Ozzy says, do something, Sharks. Plenty of time, man. There's still 4. Jeez, that's nearly a bad mistake there from the Raiders. But third tackle for Canberra at the 20. Oh my gosh. Is that true? They're at 58% completion rate, Sharks? Is that true? Oh my gosh, they're at 61% on NRL.com, but the commentary said 58%. And I agree with what the commentary said. If they can get out of this half only down 6-0, or maybe even equivalent of 6-6, despite those stats, they go on to win this game. Because that's horrid stats, and surely they get better in the second half. And to only be down 6-0 is actually quite crazy. Raiders will, the ball goes out around the 33, it'll be Sharks ball. How are Raiders only 6 up? It's exactly the point, Leon, that I'm making here. I don't understand why. And again, your opinion's fine, Casey. It's just that I disagree with it. But I don't understand how anyone can see this game as the Raiders are, clearly going to go on with it and dominate this game. They have ultimately dominated field position in this game so far. The Sharks have made a ridiculous amount of errors. They've given away a ridiculous amount of penalties. And yeah, it's only 6-0, and the Sharks have the ball here at the 40. And the Sharks have had a couple of opportunities. They just haven't been able to do a great deal with it just this yet, but there's still 47 minutes to go of this game. I'm not seeing that game in regards to it being a blowout right now. I'm seeing this is going to go completely down to the wire for either team. Fourth tackle now for the Sharks. They're at the 43. Because 6-0 is a very small margin considering it's a 62% possession game of the Raiders. 62% to 38%. If they can even that out even minor, the Sharks can come back in this game. Molitaro's knocked over. It's a penalty to the Sharks at the 10. That's going to be called an escort. Either way, it would have been a 7 tackle. It would have been a dropout from the Raiders because he took him back in goal. But it will be a penalty as the Sharks 10 minutes out. Tyona says, the only good thing about the footy season ending is I can stop being robbed by KO for a couple of months. Yeah, well, that is... Well, unless you're watching Ashes or something like that. If you're watching the Australia versus England Ashes series, is that on KO? Or is that on 9? Actually, no, it will be on both, won't it? I don't know. I'm not too sure. But the Sharks now, they're going to get this ball to the 3. And it's going to be first tackle. No, it is on KO. Yeah, KO and Channel 9, I think. So Nico Hines here at the 10. CSF Italikai, this is a huge set. The Sharks score here and tie this game up, just considering the possession swing and the error rate. and the amount of field position, that'd be dramatic against the Raiders. Sharks here, 2 metres away here from the line on third tackle. Blake Brayley, he gives it out the back here. Nicho Hynes, short ball into the line. Good defence. They get the ball out of the back here to Will Candy with an offload. He's at the 10. He'll cross all the way to the other side of the field, and then he'll sit down at the 9 on fourth tackle. Or channel 7. Yeah, there you go. Fair enough. So Blake Brayley to Braden Trindle. Trindle to Nicho Hynes. Hynes. Oh, that's a sexy pass from Nicho Hynes. Nicho Hynes, take a bow. You made a mistake with that challenge before, but that is an unbelievable pass. That is the riskiest pass you could have done. If that gets intercepted, we rip him to shit. But it wasn't. It was a pinpoint perfection pass. This has every right and opportunity to be intercepted here by the winger who is rushing through. It was Jed Stewart. If he goes for an intercept there, he had the opportunity there, but the pass was so perfect from Nicho Hynes that he didn't have enough time to react to it. Gets it to Mulatalo, he scores in the corner. We might be in a tight game here, despite the fact that the possession is 62% to the Raiders and 38% to the Sharks. And more errors to the Sharks, and more penalties. The fact this is only 6-0 or 6-4 now is a concern. It's a clean pass, Brenton. Jaywalk says, my camera's not working as we speak. That is the way, man. That is the way. Steve says, the Barmy Army are going to get flogged. Mate, Steve, we're going to be here for every single day of the Ashes. And it gets pretty hot in this chat, dude. It gets pretty hot in this chat. Tona says, can you see on your end which streams got the most live views? I'd love to know which clubs brought in the most viewers. I can, but off the top of my head. So let me do this conversion here, and then I'll tell you the teams that I can basically tell you who do usually on a normal, in the regular season, would get more views overall. But let me just wait for this conversion here first. So 3 minutes and 58 seconds to go here in the first half. Nicho Hynes, he will, from the sideline, make it a 6-6 ball game, baby. That's a great kick from Nicho. That's a great kick. And despite everything against them, the Sharks, despite how poorly they have played in parts, that's still tied up at 6-6 with 38% possession. That is very scary stuff. Sean says, no Ethan Strange. No, he's sickness. He's out for this game. He's out for this game. So anyway, to answer the question before in regards to which clubs bring in the most viewership, it's going to be teams like the Warriors, because that's an entire country. It's going to be teams like the Broncos, because they have a lot of Queensland, but they also have a large Papua New Guinean audience and also have an international audience as well. But Papua New Guinea, they love the Broncos for a large portion, more so than the Cowboys. But I think if the Cowboys were a lot better, the Papua New Guinea would probably get behind them. They'll get around a lot of the Queensland teams. So teams like the Warriors, teams like the Broncos, teams like the Bulldogs, with their hype, the Bulldogs are getting a much larger audience again nowadays. It definitely wasn't like this a few years back. Sharks get this ball here to the 15 on second tackle. And then, I would say Titans as well, but that's because I am a Titans fan, so people like to see me cry. Third tackle here for the Sharks, and they'll beat the 25. 6-6 game, 3.5 minutes to go to the first half. Steve says, I've got a feeling the Raiders are going to choke tonight. Well, it's not out of the equation. It's not. I wouldn't even necessarily say it's a choke. Last week would be the choke. This wouldn't be. Nicho Hynes, the 50 here. Oh, they might lead. Oh my gosh, they're going to lead. Kaolero at the 20, 15, 10 metres out. He's going to score. He's 3 metres out from the line. Fit tackle. Raiders, you can't go behind right now. You can't go behind. Fit tackle, 3 metres out. Blake Brayley across here. Braden Trindle. Trindle flicks it underneath here. Nicho Hynes. Oh my gosh. The Raiders have just thrown away a 6-0 lead with 62% possession. It's 10-6 to the Sharks with a kick to come. Who was before saying that the Raiders were clearly going to run away with this one? Because the Sharks have just taken the lead with 2 very quick tries. Nicho Hynes with a beautiful pass try assist there on the left-hand side to take it to a 6-6 game. Well, guess what? He's just scored the try to make it a 10-6 ball game here for the Sharks. 2.5 minutes to go. More errors, more penalties. Completely dominated on field possession, and again they've had 38% possession, and they're going to lead 12 points to 6 with 2 minutes to go to the first half. There is no way that you can defend that from the Raiders. The Raiders have had so much attacking opportunities. They have been down there so much, but they are clearly missing Ethan Strange here, and it's going to be hurting their fans. It's going to be hurting this club because they are clearly lacking a lot of X factor. Jamal Fogarty can do what he does, but they need the X factor. Simi Sasangi is not bringing it, and they're not being able to bring these players in, these X factor players like Sebastian Chris or like Matty Tomoko. mainly Chris on the left-hand side was strange, but they're not able to bring these guys into the game because Jamal Fogarty doesn't have that X factor, and Simi Sasangi just hasn't been able to do it either. Ethan Strange might be the reason why the Raiders get knocked out in straight sets if this game continues this way. Obviously, I'm just talking about what we've seen here in the first half, but if this game continues this way, we have to look at that. I feel like if Strange plays, they might have actually put him away quite well in this first half, and then we'd have to hope that we don't see the Rays fade like they usually do. But this first half has been really telling in regards to the Raiders and the Sharks, attacking Raiders and defensive Sharks. Because the Sharks defensively have been very good. Sean says Sharks did this to the Roosters. Sort of. The Roosters didn't dominate the first half like the Raiders have. Steve says the fader's gone out the back door. Jay Walk says we will hear Ricky from all over Australia at halftime. Yeah, and just to clarify, I want to make sure everyone knows I'm not saying the Canberra Raiders now lose this game. I'm not saying the Raiders have lost this game because of this. But it is a crucial telling time to concede one try in the last 5 minutes, let alone 2 tries in the last 5 minutes when you were up with all the stats already mentioned. Someone says Sharks are the team that can fuck around and still best you. Yeah, you're right. Last 10 minutes, though, the Sharks have been able to swing that possession back in their favour, 66% to 34%. Obviously, that's not the entire 40 minutes. In the last 10 minutes, they've been able to really bring that possession back to them. So that means that considering that the possession right now is back to 57% and 43% here for the Raiders' favour, 57 to 43, again, it was 62 to 38. Now it's 57 to 43. With a 66% swing in the last 10 minutes, they've still only been able to muster 43%. That shows you how much ball the Raiders have had here today. Second tackle here for the Sharks, and it's going to be C.S. Ivitalakai who brings this ball out to the 20 on third tackle. Funny Cat Vids says Raiders still thinking about last week. I don't know if that's necessarily the case. Blake Brayley here at the 40, 38 seconds to go in the first half. I don't necessarily believe that's the case. I think that they are just dramatically losing out in the crux of their team, who I believe is a smoky potentially for a Dally M and Ethan Strange. Maybe a smoky. Since Toby come off their scoring points, Brenton, I tell you, I know a thing or two about a thing or two. I don't always know a thing or two about a thing or two, but I'll know a thing or two about a thing or two. KO Weeks here, 13 seconds to go in the first half. First tackle, 20 metres out. You know why? Because when Toby Rudolph went off, they haven't made as many errors, and they haven't been giving away as many penalties. The Raiders now at the 30. And Toby kicks the ball over the left-hand side. He's a little bit of an X-factor play, but the Sharks will get it. And it'll be Sione Katoa who picks the ball up at the 50. And that, my friends, is half-time. That, my friends, is half-time. And it is 12-6 to Cronulla after what we just watched. That is a crazy, crazy turnaround. A crazy, crazy turnaround. Lagan says, don't know why Ricky didn't pick Ethan Sanders when he's a genuine 5'8". I'm pretty certain Ethan Sanders is actually a genuine halfback, is what I've heard, especially considering Ethan Strange with 6 next year and Sanders with 7. But I believe that there is word that maybe they weren't allowed to actually play Ethan Sanders, even though I think... I'm not too sure, but someone was saying it before in the chat. But anyway, guys... Half-time, 12-6 here to Cronulla. Sharks, the last 5 minutes, they looked fantastic. The first 35 minutes before that, they looked absolutely pathetic. The Sharks looked really bad for 35 minutes, but then were able to come back and slap up the Raiders in the last 5 minutes. I will say, though, that's speaking about the middle of the field, and that's speaking about the attack for the Sharks in regards to them looking pathetic. Their defense today has actually been really good, and the Raiders are actually quite lucky they even have one try on the board, with Corey Horsburgh just kind of getting a roll. Just being able to roll that ball over, which was good from him and shows the strength, but it was quite a lucky try in the context of seeing how the Rays have played with their attack today. The Sharks defensively have been matching it. They have been matching it overall. And that's why when we said the Rays are the 4th best attack, the Sharks are the 4th best defense in the comp this year, the Raiders are the 6th best defense this year, and the Sharks are the 6th best attack this year. But the thing is that when you look at the Raiders attack, you had to take out the fact that Ethan Strange is their crux, so they go from 4th to however far you want to put them down. They're not still in 4th if Ethan Strange isn't there for the entirety of the season. So you take Ethan Strange out and you place them, and right now we're seeing that where you would place this Raiders attack across a season with no Ethan Strange in the first half. So a lot of work for them to do in the second half here. Sharks very good defensively, very poor in the middle and the attacking side besides that last couple of minutes there, whilst the Raiders, they've been winning the middle very clearly, and their defense has been okay, but the Sharks haven't been able to throw too much at them, and then when the Sharks have thrown something at them, the Rays have capitulated immediately. Quite literally immediately. 2 tries like that. So that's kind of my summary of the first half there. But let's get into some of these stats here at halftime. Obviously, guys, do me a favor. If you're enjoying the content, please hit that thumbs up button, subscribe if you're new around here, and don't forget to go check out BKRtravel if you've got any questions about all my travels across India and USA, Fiji, Hong Kong, Vietnam, Thailand, Malaysia. Please drop a comment on that video in the pinned comment. But let's get into these stats here at halftime. Now, the try scorers for the Sharks: Ronaldo Mulitalo and Nico Hines, with the try scorer for the Raiders being the big red Corey Horsburgh. The score is 12-6 for the Sharks. Now, in regards to possession, 55% possession here for the Raiders and 45% possession here for the Sharks. I need to clarify here with a comment. Return to the faders. You can't say 6 points is a fade job. It's only one try. If it's like 12, if it's like 18, if it's like 24, that's a fader. But 6 points, if the Sharks want to win this game, the Raiders didn't fade maybe the back end of the year, but you can't say 6 points is a fade job. Last week, they're up by like 16 to 18 points. Or whatever it was, where the Broncos had to chase it back, that's a fade. This hasn't been a fade so far. Now, in regards to possession, like I said, 55% possession to the Raiders, 45% to the Sharks. If you look 10 minutes ago, it was 62% possession to the Raiders, 38% possession to the Sharks. Then 5 minutes ago, it was 57%, 57% to 43%, and now it's 55% to 45%. So we're showing that if the Sharks can actually limit their errors, and the Sharks can stop giving away these stupid penalties, and if the Sharks can actually hold the ball and have a similar amount of possession, they might, and they probably are going to win this game. Because considering they've been so detrimentally bad in regards to holding onto the ball, they're still leading and still with 10% less possession than the Raiders have had. So it's a big telling sign that the Sharks can limit their errors. They will go on to win this game based on what we just seen in the first half. Now, in regards to time possession, 15 minutes 47 for the Raiders, 13 minutes and 11 for the Sharks. This is quite healthy overall. Obviously, we've only seen 3 tries overall. Not a great deal of penalties, but enough penalties. But 15 minutes, 13 minutes, that's 28 minutes. That's 28 minutes 47, basically 29 minutes. That's quite healthy in regards to time possession, which means we're getting a lot of rugby league play. We're seeing quite a free-flowing game for the most part. So I think the first 10 minutes, first 15 minutes really hurt us in regards to most of those errors. Gosh, the Sharks, those errors are just brutal when you go down to them. But that's a healthy time possession. Now, completion rate, you want to be sitting at least at 80%. You need to be hitting at least 80% on a completion rate as an average. The Raiders are at 84%, so 21 from 25. So they're not making too many mistakes. Now, the Raiders aren't losing this game because they're making too many mistakes. 84% is very healthy. But the Sharks are at 66%. That is pathetic. They're not even at 70%. 80% is the market. 70% is underwhelming. They're not even at 70%. And it's the last couple of sets there where they've been able to score that have been able to boost them up from where they were at 58%. They were 58% like 5-10 minutes ago, and now they're at 66%. That's how poor. 16 from 24. They've had 8 incomplete sets, whilst the Raiders have had 4. And the Sharks have had 1 less set. So they've had 8 to 4 with 1 less set. That's how bad the Sharks have been completion rate-wise. Then you go to the attack. 102 runs here for the Raiders, 799 run meters for the Raiders. Right, so that is, if you want to try and go via the metric that we usually give, the 10 meters on average per run, you try to look for. You try to aim for 10 meters on average per run. It's a very difficult metric to get to, but it's the solid. It shows that you're doing really good. So they're 799. Raiders have had 102. That is 220 odd runs, run meters behind where they would be looking to get to, right, on the 10 meters on average per run. Whilst the Sharks, with 88 runs, have got 812 run meters. That is a separating gap of 13 run meters for the Sharks with 14 less runs. The Sharks have had 14 less runs, but they've got 13 extra meters. Their 812 to 88 means they're about 70 odd, 68 behind the 10 meters on average per run. That is a very solid number that you're looking to achieve. If you want to try and give them that metric, which is relatively unfair because they're not quite there, but they're closer to the Raiders in it. If you give them the extra 14 runs, that's 140 meters. They go to 950. They would be beating on that relatively unfair metric, but they would be beating the Raiders by 150 odd meters here at halftime with the equivalent runs. So the Sharks are absolutely actually winning the run meters department. It's the errors that are killing them. Post-contact meters, though, the Raiders are killing the Sharks. 321 post-contact to 248. So that is a 50. That's basically 70. I think it's 73 off the top of my head post-contact meters in favor of the Raiders here. Now, you also have to include those 14 extra runs for the Sharks, But the Raiders, with that difficult metric, the Raiders would still be up by probably, I would assume, 30 to 40. Maybe 30 to 40. Post-contact made is still in favour of the Raiders, which is significant. So the Raiders are really killing them in the post-contact, but in regards to the run meters, the Sharks are actually dominating Canberra. They're dominating them. And then you go to the line breaks, 4-1 here to the Sharks. Line breaks are usually created from X Factor. They're usually created from creativity. Jamal Fogarty needs Ethan Strange for that. And that's why you're seeing the Sharks getting a bucket load more line breaks at 4-1 for the Sharks. Nico Hines has been brilliant in this category. He's gotten some great work. He's having a good game here today, Nico, besides that challenge, which was very poor. And then you go to the tackle breaks. 27 tackle breaks here for the Sharks. 26 tackle breaks for the Raiders. That's a lot of missed tackles. That is a lot. And we'll speak more in depth about the defense in a second, but that is a ridiculous amount of missed tackles, especially for the Canberra Raiders, giving up 27 missed tackles with the amount of less ball the Sharks have had. You know, with the Sharks, with the amount of ball they've been against, 26 tackle breaks is still a lot, but it's not as significant as the 27 missed tackles the Raiders have had. So we'll talk about the defense in a second. Average set distance, 25 and under is you turn the stream off, it's disgusting. 25 to 30 is just straight up disgusting, pathetic. 30 to 35 is underwhelming. 35 to 40 is hitting the marker, what you want to at least be achieving. 40 to 45 is great. 45 to 50 is fantastic, and 50 plus is basically perfect. An incredible first half. Both these teams are in the underwhelming category. It's not a surprise. 32.19 here for the Raiders. They're at the lower to mid-range, more so the mid-range of an underwhelming category. They're not hitting the mark of 35, whilst the Sharks at 33.86, they're not too much better. They're not even up by a metre on the Raiders, but they're in that middle section. Actually, no, they are up by about a metre and a half on the Raiders, which is nothing too much. So 33.86 is getting mid-range to upper end of the underwhelming category. Long story short, underwhelming, both sides here in regards to the average set meters that they're getting. Average play the ball speed, 3.36 seconds there for the Raiders, 3.47 seconds there for the Sharks. So 3.36 is in the fast category of 3.21 to 3.2 to 3.39, and then the 3.4 to 3.59 is in the average category. So the Sharks average is not a negative connotation here, just the average across the competition. 3.47 seconds there is in the average, whilst that 3.36 seconds is definitely in the fast category for the Raiders. And then you go to the offloads, 7 offloads to 4 for the Raiders. That's not surprising. It's a lot of offloads, but it's not surprising they're from Canberra and their forwards. And then you go to the kick refusal, 50% for the Raiders, 38% there for the Sharks. Raiders have actually got 410 kicking meters to 345, which is a little bit surprising. And then you go to the effective tackle percentage. We haven't actually seen a forced dropout so far tonight, mind you, but the effective tackle percentage, and this is going to be poor for both these teams, but like I was saying, especially in regards to the Raiders, because of the amount of tackles the Sharks have had to make in comparison, it's going to really bring down the Raiders much more significantly, despite the fact that both their missed tackles are quite similar. So 85% and below is disgusting, pathetic. 85% to 88% is underwhelming. 88% to 90% is hitting the marker, and then 90% and above is absolutely fantastic. Now, the Raiders are at 82.65%. They are basically 2.5%. If you want to be technical, 2.35% behind where they need to be, at least for an underwhelming. They are 5.35% behind where they need to be on the average hitting the marker category. Like, that's a significant drop-off defensively. Effective tackle percentage is not a collective measure. It's an individual measure. And on an individual tackle percentage, 82.65% is really poor. 162 tackles made for 27 missed tackles and 7 ineffective. Now, the average amount of ineffective tackles you'll see is about 5-6. And the average amount of missed tackles you'll see is 15 to 17. They are 10 above the 17 on the highest end of the average, 10 above it at 27, whilst the ineffective tackles, they are 1 above the average ineffective tackles at 7. So that's 34 bad tackles in the first half with only 162 tackles made, which brings that percentage well and truly down. And then you compare it to the Sharks, who are at 86.33%. They're in the underwhelming category, and they're still down by about 1.67% on hitting the 88% marker, but 221 tackles made for 26 missed tackles and 9 ineffective. So their ineffective is more by 2, but again, they've had 59 more tackles than the Raiders. The Sharks had 59 more tackles than the Raiders. So 9 ineffective is 3 above the... Actually, the ineffective tackles average is 6 to 7. So the Raiders are at the average there. But 6 to 7. So they're 2 above in the ineffective tackles on the average. And then the missed tackles, they are also... They are also 9 above in regards to missed tackles. But again, the reason why the Sharks defensively on an individual level are so much more better with the 86.3 to the 82.65 is because the 59 tackles made comparison that separates the two. So the Sharks defensively here, collectively on the eye test, they've actually been really good. And realistically speaking, considering the amount of ball against them, these aren't bad numbers for them, despite the fact they've got 35 bad tackles to 34 bad tackles. It just comes down to understanding kind of how that first half has played in a lot of ways. But those stats aren't awful, and that's why they're just underneath the marker, but they're still not quite there. And then you go to the negative play. This is bad for Cronulla. This is bad. Sharks' errors is 8, and the Raiders' errors is 4. So 4 and below is good. I'll read that in a second, Jay Walks, by the way. Appreciate you. 4 and below is good amount of errors. 5 to 6 is average, and then 7 above is awful. So the Raiders at 4 is in the good category. It's still on the upper end of good. You still want to limit those, but it's not into an awful category of 8. You know, that is bad stuff there from the Sharks. We are talking Newcastle Knights, Sydney Roosters, and North Queensland Cowboys territory with that 8 errors. We don't usually see this many errors from the Sharks. That's a lot of errors. They're not in the top 5 teams for errors this season, the Sharks, and that is a top 5, top 3 error rate at a half-time. And yet they're still leading 12-6, which tells you a lot about this game. So 8-4 is a significant switch up there, and the Sharks, if they can hold the ball, they will go on to win this game with these stats so far. They will, 100%. If they can hold the ball and limit those errors. Because right now we're looking at the Newcastle Knights error count. And then you got the penalties conceded of 4-3. That's getting up there. It's nothing out of this world against the Raiders of 3. The Sharks is getting quite up there. But overall, it's nothing to really write home about. Both teams have been pretty similar on the discipline. Ruck infringements is 2-1 against the Sharks. Then on reports is 1-0 against the Sharks. So overall, the second half's about to start up here again. Overall, the Sharks have been really poor in regards to their errors. Similar penalties-wise. Defensively, the Sharks have been better. Raiders have been really poor, actually, on missed tackles specifically. The play-the-ball speeds are pretty similar, but the Sharks are in the average, whilst the Raiders are in the fast. The line breaks is all Sharks. Post-contact is all Raiders, but the run meters is all Sharks. The completion rate is all Raiders, but yet the Sharks are leading 12-6, despite being down significantly on possession. So that's the halftime stats here, guys. I tipped the Sharks in an upset before the game. I'm going to lean still with the Sharks to win this game in an upset at halftime, especially considering they're up. But there's a long 40 minutes to go here, guys. So hit that thumbs up button and subscribe. And let's quickly get back to the chat before the game does start for the second half. Jay Walks, get around. You've been a member of the channel, bro. Appreciate that, mate. Appreciate the support. Monkey Morty Ty says Rudolph was looking dangerous early. Yeah, dangerous for the Sharks. Yeah, no, he was looking dangerous to make them get knocked out here today. Sean James says, listen to the stats. It sounds like the Sharks. Exactly right. You know, exactly right. Jay Walks says it's always a game of 2 halves. Absolutely, mate. Absolutely, it's always a game of 2 halves. You know, you're always going to see... it's always going to be extremely difficult to read the stats and say it's 100% that's what's going to happen. But overall... this game right now is leaning towards the Sharks, unless the Raiders can overturn this. But it's like, what more can they do based off of that first half? What are you more so looking for the Raiders to do in this first half, in the second half, comparatively to the first half, where they had most of the ball? So they still have no Ethan Strange. They can't have Ethan Strange for the rest of this game. So if they still don't have Ethan Strange, what are you expecting them to change from the first half to the second half without their gun X factor at 5'8"? So Sharks now, they're going to get this ball here to the 40 through Siasif Talakai. It's going to be fit tackle. Rolls back to Blake Brayley. He'll give it across here to Braden Trindle, and Trindle's going to whack that ball up into the corner. It's a good chase through here from the Sharks. Good kick, but the Raiders will grab it at the 5. It'll be first tackle. Jossie Parts is still anyone's game. Hopefully the second half is a good one. Destiny says Raiders are going to come back. Well, good luck. We'll see. Long way to go in this game, mate. Long way to go in this game. Second tackle. Jay says only 6 points. Still anyone's game. Absolutely. Destiny says, I'm new here. I hope we all become friends. Get around. Yeah, Brenton Edslick says, Josh Hannay having a chat to Gal. Yeah, that's right. Obviously, Josh Hannay is still the assistant coach there at Cronulla. So, 4th tackle, and it's going to be Hudson Young. He brings his ball out here to the 35, and now to the 40 on fit tackle. I'm going to have a quick drink here because I didn't get a drink at half time. Anyone here from Chicago? I love Chicago. When I lived there, I loved Chicago. So, Sharks now, they're going to get this ball here to the 20. Siona Katoa, he'll get his ball to the 25. And it's going to be first tackle for Cronulla. First tackle. Ricky Stewart felt the Raiders did everything right in the first half except the last 5 minutes. Sure, Ricky, but you can't be impressed with their attack. The sideline commentary is talking about this right now. Apparently, Ricky was very happy with the first half except the last 5 minutes. It's like, sure, but the Sharks played into it a lot with the errors, and the Raiders really disappointed on attack quite a lot. All right, so Will Kennedy now. He's going to bring this ball out here to the 40. It's going to be fit tackle. They go right-hand side of Braden Trindle, and Trindle's going to kick that one up in the air. Pretty normal kick. Don't go back for a 7-tackle set. It will be. Yeah, it goes in the end goal. So it's going to be a 7-tackle set here for the Raiders. That was not a good kick there from Trindle. Not a good kick there from Trindle at all, son. Oh, they're going to tell K Weeks he has to take it back there as he wanted to go for the quick tap. And now Jed Stewart gets his ball to the 25. I will say KO Weeks, and this is what the commentary is talking about right now, like KO Weeks has to be their X factor with Ethan Strange out. I haven't seen KO Weeks get into this game as much as you would have liked to have been seeing him getting into it. Like you need to see KO Weeks stand up in this moment to play as that X factor with no Ethan Strange. Second tackle here for the Raiders at the 48. So yeah, that's what I'm just wondering in regard. Oh, here we go, Razor away, Simi Sasangi at the 20. Oh, taking it to 15. Good run there from Sasangi. You need that. Hudson Young, he's going to go to the right side. There's actually space here. They've actually got space here. Oh, he got selfish, Hudson Young. He got selfish. He's going to score anyway. Oh my gosh, no, he's not. Held up, 6 again. 1 meter out. This is crazy. They're going to go right-hand side, Tom Starling. There's going to be numbers here if they want it. Jamal Fogarty, he won't get the offload away. Second tackle, he 3 meters out. This is a good little play here from Canberra. Good little play. Here's a chance for Canberra. Oh my gosh, they're so close. Third tackle, 3 meters out. And they give it out to Jamal Fogarty. Fogarty here to Simi Sasangi. He kicks his ball through. No, Sasangi. No, mate. It's going to be it's going to be a dropout, sorry. Oh, they're going to say it's a penalty, Canberra? Just a penalty. So they're saying that they got taken out at the ball. Then why aren't you thinking about potential professional foul if that's your thought process, Grant? If they're tackling without the ball, then that's technically a professional foul, no? Well, no. No way, Grant Atkins. That's an awful call. They're already in the process of making the tackle once he's kicked that ball through. That was just a really poor kick there. Either way, it doesn't really do anything because it was either a dropout or it was a penalty. They're not going for the 2. So, and that was proved earlier in the first half. But it just makes no sense, that call from Grant Atkins. Left-hand side, Jamal Fogarty out to him. Oh, he's been good to start this second half. Simi Sasangi. Well, we were criticising him, man. We were criticising him, but he stands up there and he's going to make this game 10 points to 12 with a kick to come. 10 points to 12 with the kick to come. Like, look, Tiana, it was a bad call, but either way, the Raiders would have been getting the ball back anyway. So the Raiders score here off the back of that. It's fine. You don't look at that bad call there and say that it's cost the Sharks a try because either way, the Raiders were going to get that ball back. Jada Gamer says, wholly gifted. Why is that wholly gifted? Either way, JJ Gamer, it was either a dropout from the Sharks or it was a penalty to the Raiders, and the Raiders are either getting the ball probably at the 15 or maybe the 20. I don't think the Sharks go for a shorty, actually. They probably go out longer, but Nico's not got a huge boot on him, so it probably goes maybe 30, 40 metres at best. They get the ball back to the 25. What's the wholly gifted? At the end of the day, Simi Sasangi with a great step there through Nico Hines, but the Raiders would have gotten the ball back regardless, so why is it that you say that was a gifted try? Joseph says, if the Raiders... Oh, is there an obstruction? There is a penalty. This is a no try. This is a no try, lads. There is Hudson Young stops in the line. Jesse Colquhoun can't make a play. This is a no try, Raiders. It's a penalty, Sharks. Hudson Young there and then stops in the line, and then Simi Sasangi comes back through that place. Penalty, Sharks. Yep. Denies Billy Burns. Sorry, not Jesse Colquhoun. He runs directly through that line there, Simi Sasangi, so it is going to be a no try, and it will be Sharks ball here with a penalty at the 10, and they will lead 12-6 again. It does make sense, Branson. I didn't actually immediately acknowledge it, didn't notice it immediately, but it does make sense because there was way too much space there. Once he got around Nico Hines, there was no one covering, so it was quite odd. Jack says, how come you can't tackle someone if they might kick it? So Grant Atkins is basically saying that he's kicked it and then they've tackled him. So the Sharks get this ball to the 30. He's kicked it and then they've tackled him, which I didn't see. I don't agree. I don't think it should have been a penalty. Again, similar outcome happens anyway. But the point is that he's said that the Sharks have tackled him after he has kicked it. So that's a penalty for taking him out of the play after he has kicked it. But from when you look at it, it's like it wasn't after he kicked it. They were making the tackle as he was kicking it. And oh my gosh, that's a bad mistake there from Cronulla. And the Raiders are away here. Tom Starling, the 30, at the 25, at the 20. And now it's going to be 0 tackle. Bad knock on there from the Sharks. And this is what we saw a lot of them in the first half. Donald says, bro, can you at least show the video on the other side? Hey, Donald, how about this one? Get a job. First tackle here for the Raiders, and they're at the 15. You obviously know broadcasting restrictions, you can't show it. Right-hand side now, it's going to be Matty Tomoko, who's 3 meters out of the line. Do you really think if I couldn't show you the game, if I could show you the game, I wouldn't show you the game? Second tackle here, 2 meters out. Set restart here for the Raiders. It's going to be first tackle for Canberra, Jamal Fogarty. And now they're going to be Atamariota. He'll be 13 meters out of the line. Oh, has he lost that ball? Oh, damn. I don't know if they picked that up. I think he did, but he was looking at the referee to say, like, please don't call it. He didn't. Corey Horsburgh, 10 meters out from the line. And now at the back here, Jamal Fogarty. That's going to be a try in the corner. That's going to be a try in the corner. And it is at 10-12 here with a kick to come. The Raiders will hit back through Sebele Tamale, and you have to look at the error rate here from the Sharks. I'm sorry, Raiders fans, but I'm going to tell you that I genuinely do not believe that you can go on to win this competition right now, because the only reason that you are getting to this area is off of the back of the 9 knock-ons the Sharks have had in this game. The Sharks have had 9 knock-ons. They've been down here for so long. It's great they score this. If they win this game, that's valid. But do they go and beat the Storm, and then do they go and beat one of the Panthers, the Broncos they lost to last week, or the Dogs? Right this very second, it's getting quite concerning. Because, yes, they've scored this try here, but both of these tries for the Raiders have come directly off of Sharks knock-ons, which is great because the Raiders have been able to capitalise on the opportunity there, but they've also had a ridiculous amount of opportunities. So the 2 opportunities they've scored from, also you have to apply to the 10 to 15 other opportunities that they've had. So they're not scoring when they're getting the opportunities, but they've been able to get this game here to a 10-12 game with the potential of a 12-12 game, which you have to give them credit for. But I worry for them if they don't have Ethan Strange, but he'll be back next week, actually, so I take that out. This is just a tough game to win. I take what I just said out, actually, because Ethan Strange will play next week. So that changes the whole context of the Raiders. Sharks looking concerning now. Can't wait to see Toby Rudolph's second shift. How are the Sharks looking concerning now? This is the exact same thing we saw in the first half, lads. What's the difference between what we're seeing from Cronulla in the first half to what we're seeing in the first 8 minutes here? This is exactly what the Sharks did. Concerning now? They still led 12-6 despite looking concerning. All the stats were showing how concerning it was for the Sharks, especially the error rate of 8 errors. Now they're at 9 already in the first 6 minutes here of the second half. It's now, 32 minutes 44 to go here of the game. Jamal Fogarty from the sideline, he will get the kick. So it is 12-12. But, what's the difference between the first half and this half to say the Sharks are looking concerning now? Did you say the same thing at halftime when they were leading 12-6? Yeah, needed that conversion, Brenton, absolutely. In games like this, you definitely need the points. Donald says, come on, Raiders. Agent says Raider playing the long game. Well, we didn't say that last week. Sean says, show the game is on a mirror and upside down. No thanks, Don. Jacob says, Sharks only beat the Roosters the same way and at home. Sure, but again, the Sharks last week showed a difference in that 40 to 50 minute mark from what they have been across the last 4 years. There was a massive context in the game. The massive context for the Raiders here is they have the excuse of having no Ethan Strange. But then when they get Ethan Strange back next week, if provided they get through this game, then it will be a lot more free-flowing and back to usual. But last week, I feel like you just have to hate the Sharks to think this process. I think you do. Because it's not mutually exclusive. You can say the Roosters play bad, and you can say the Sharks played good. The Sharks did play good last week. In that 40 to 50 minute mark, they showed the adversity comparatively to recent years. If you think the Sharks played badly last week and found a way to win, I don't know what game you were watching. It is very different. It's very different. So the Raiders now, they're going to beat the 50. Also, mind you, the Sharks gave up 2 tries in this period of the game last week to the Roosters and still went up to win that game by 10. You have to hate the Sharks to tell me they didn't have a good game last week. You do. You have to. How can you say that? How is it possible to say that the Sharks weren't good and the Roosters were bad, but it's not mutually exclusive? Because the same thing applies to the Sharks versus Dragons game 6 weeks ago. Chainsaw says, let's go, Sharks, let's go. Jay Walk says, just need to stay in his corridor, Sharkies. Joseph says, if the Raiders get knocked out in back-to-back sets, is it a failure for the year despite them winning a minor premiership? No, it's a successful season regardless for the Raiders, but it would be very frustrating. but they've also kind of got excuses for losing this, even though you shouldn't have excuses in games like this. 4 tackle here at the 44. Fanua Blake comes off here for Britton Nakora. Big switch up there. And Will Candy brings in the 45 on the Raiders side of the field. Hey, says, damn, I had Sasang for anytime try score. There you go. So Braden Trindle, he's going to whack that ball up into the air. Good chase through here. Raiders at the 15. Chase knocked down here for the Sharks. Goes backwards. No, they're going to say knock on. Otherwise, the Sharks would have scored in the corner. It will be a knock on in the air there from the Sharks. Mulatalo's complaining about that one. I do think it probably is a knock on, though. I do think it probably is. And you don't, Sean? What are you talking about, Jacob? What are you talking about, Jacob? I don't know if you're having a crack at me or some, like, what's going on. $10 says Raiders go all the way. Yeah, well, it's different. When I was saying that comment, never question, I was forgetting that Ethan Strange comes back next week. So if they get through this game, I look very differently at the Raiders going forward, because Ethan Strange being out is a big reason. And that's why I was saying in the first half, if Ethan Strange was playing in the first half, I think the Raiders would have gone out to a pretty comfortable lead, and they would be more so talking about if they're going to fade or not at this point, which, you know, obviously you're going to back against, but they've done it before. So I think if Ethan Strange plays here, they could have been up 18-0 or 18-6 or 24-6 at half time with the amount of possession they had. Without Ethan Strange, the Raiders weren't able to do that. So it's a very different conversation. That's why I forgot about Strange coming back next week. So Raiders now right-hand side. Do you understand what I'm saying? 45 metres out. Jamal Fogarty kicks his ball down to the 25. Will Candy will grab it, and he'll bring it out now to the 30. Sean says, keep Adden and Britton on at the same time. Well, Adden needs a bit of a break. Demo Trindle too. Yeah, it was about to score in the corner. But it's going to be Kale Iro. He's going to get this ball here to the 45 on third tackle. Yeah, good call, Jay. Third tackle. Now to the right-hand side, and they'll give it off to... is that Jesse Ramian? And Jesse Ramian's going to get this ball here to the 40. Now 38 metres out. Let me turn that up a little bit. Okay, I'll turn that up a little bit. I hope that's a little bit louder for you. And now they've got the left-hand side of the Sharks at the 25. Kale Iro sets back in there, 20 metres out, even the line, fifth tackle. 30 minutes to go here in the game, guys. Hit that thumbs up button. Subscribe if you're new around here. In 30 minutes' time, we should be seeing who's going through the preliminary final and who's out. Raiders knock it on. This is going to be Sharks ball 10 metres away. The Sharks are about to get a fresh set of 6, 10 metres away here. In about 30 minutes' time, we are about to see who will be facing the Melbourne Storm in Melbourne, provided we don't go to extra time and go on point. Tony says, I don't think the Sharks are winning this if it stays close. Why? We'll have to win convincingly if they have a chance. Why? Jay Money says, why is the NRL so bad with decision-making in the moment? Are we that stupid? What are you criticising? Joseph says, do you think Sharks can go down to Melbourne and win if they get through here? Well, they won against Melbourne in Melbourne last year with Daniel Atkinson as their halfback. I don't know, though. Actually, both teams beaten them, but I will be probably tipping the Storm probably regardless. But Raiders Storm I would be a much harder tip. I can see the Sharks winning, but I would tip the Storm over the Sharks. Storm Raiders would be a difficult one because the Raiders did beat the Storm, I think, in Melbourne this year, no? Maybe. It was very early on in the season, though. This is going to be 6 again for the Sharks. Yep, Teague Wilson roll back to Blake Brayley. He'll get across to Nico Hines. Hines at the back now to CSF for Talakai. Talakai! 2 minutes away from the line. First tackle. Slapper, you're a good man, mate. I'll read that out in a second. Out of the back here, right-hand side, Nico Hines gives it across now to Brett Nakora. Nakora, he's 5 minutes out from the line. 5 metres out, second tackle. They roll it back here to Jesse Ramian. Ramian across here to Nico Hines. Hines to... Billy Burns. Billy Burns goes in himself. Oh, he's been good, Billy Burns, this season. That's a try for Billy Burns right on through. That's strong. He's the man holding out an international New Zealander in Britton Nakora right now. He has been the Sharks' best player of the last month and a half, 2 months. He has been their best player of the last month and a half, 2 months. He's been great work, and he's holding out an international New Zealander in Britton Nakora, and that right there is justifying it. Last week he was great. Today he's been great. There's a try there that takes a lead from 16-12. It's right next to the post as well. It's a strong try there. They need someone to stand up, and they do. So the Sharks take the lead 16-12 with the kick to come. Slapper with the 5 gifted memberships. Get around your Slapper. Appreciate you as always, my guy. Nikhil, Joseph, JJ Gamer, Matthew S, and Miles Earl all gifted membership. Get around your Slapper. You're a legend. Bretton says, Jed Shield is not good under the high ball. The Bronx found that out last week. Agree. Sean says, Kale Iro is such a good line breaker. He is. Well, this is very similar to how that Roosters second half went last week right now. That first 10 minutes of the second half, I want to quickly go and have a look at when those 2 tries were scored by the Roosters. So last week, with the Roosters-Sharks game, the Roosters got red hot for that the 40 to 50th minute mark. They scored with Angus Crichton in the 47th minute, sorry. And then, actually wasn't until the 75th minute the Sharks scored again. Yeah, okay. They had a penalty on the 69th minute. So, no, a bit different, actually. Bit different. But the Roosters did score that 1 try in that 40 to 50 minute mark. So, we'll tell you, if the Sharks get through Storm, target the 40 to 50th minute mark. Also target the first 20 minutes, really. So, the Sharks now will convert it, and it will be 18-12 here with 26 minutes to go here in the game. Kay says, wants Sharks to win, but needs Sanga to get a try. Dude, oh, that's right. He got taken off for the try. I forgot about that. Yeah, it got removed. Tony says, I'm glad Sharks are putting up a fight. I thought the Raiders were going to run all over them, especially after last week. But why, though? The loss of Ethan Strange, their X-Factor creative 5'8". The guy that I believe is a smoky for a Dally M. Joseph says, Billy Burns is better than Britt Nakora. Thanks, Slapper. I will say, though, I guess you have to see Billy Burns do it again next year and whatnot, but there's a reason he's currently holding out Britt Nakora despite how good Nakora is. It's an interesting conversation to have because I thought it was ballsy of Craig to not... Well, that might go on the full. No, that's a good kick there from the Raiders. And Sia Sifatalakai to come out from his own 1. And with a strong run, gets it out to about the 8-9 metres for first tackle. It's an interesting conversation because Craig made a ballsy decision to not have Nakora in his team last week when he had the availability and to keep Billy Burns there. Burns played well again and Nakora was fine off the bench. And then he's on now. That's him running the ball at the 25. And then again, to choose the same option this week, I wonder how Nakora feels. Even though it's the correct... I believe it's actually the correct decision now. I didn't agree with it last week, but that's why Craig Fitzgibbon, he knows what he's doing with his team. The Sharks, he'll get this ball here to the 40 on fit tackle. Sean said, I reckon if Billy Burns plays at the start of the season, he would be a Rookie of the Year contender. Billy Burns isn't a rookie? Billy Burns and the Dragons, no? Billy Burns played for a while, no? I'm just saying Billy Burns played for a while, man. Scott James says, is Storm a better matchup with the Raiders or the Sharks? Well, you wouldn't be saying who's the better matchup for the Raiders or the Sharks. You'd be saying who's the better matchup for the Storm. And if you're saying who's the better matchup for the Storm, I would say that they would be more confident against the Sharks than the Raiders. Especially with Ethan Strange back. But the Sharks did split 50-50 with them this year. Raiders Storm was 1 game. The Storm lost that game to the Raiders. The Sharks and the Storm was 2 games. Sharks won 31-26 in Shark Park and lost like 40-14 or whatever in Melbourne. So the Storm would be more confident against them. Raiders here, left-hand side, Sebastian Chris. He's at the 35. Oh, my gosh, he's punched off 1. He's going to get... Oh, he's lost the ball. Oh, my gosh. Is that a high tackle? No, it's going to be a knock on here. They may check this as a high tackle. Sebastian Chris has lost the ball here. They're calling it a knock on. They're going to challenge this here, the Raiders. I don't think you needed to challenge this, actually. I don't think the Raiders needed to challenge this because it would have been looked at from the bunker regardless. They would have looked at this in the bunker regardless, so this is risky if it's okay. Oh, that's a high tackle. It's unfortunate, but it is a high tackle. So successful. It's interesting, though, because if he doesn't get contacted with high there, it would have been unsuccessful, and they would have benefited nothing from it. Like it was actually, the bunker was going to check that anyway. There's no way he's off here, by the way, Raiders fans who are booing. It's no way that's off. No way. Jacob says, sorry, Sean said I like men. Such a stupid comment. No, Jacob. You know me. Like, at the end of the day, you know that even if things get like heated and stuff like that, it's all just genuine good chat and good conversation and whatnot. Everyone's entitled to their opinion. I didn't see the other comment about... I didn't see that comment. First tackle at the 10 for the Raiders. Jamal Fogarty gives it to Josh Papali'i, and they're 5 minutes away from the line. Second tackle. Much different game to the Raiders-Broncos game last week where the Raiders were in front and the Broncos had to chase them. Well, now the Raiders, you're doing the chasing. Jamal Fogarty. But again, both games at home in Canberra. And favourites in both of them quite convincingly. You came first for a reason. But that was with Strange. Tom Starling with a good run. He'll be 2 metres away from the line. Surprised he didn't call 6 again there, but it'll be 4th tackle even the Raiders, 4 metres out. They roll at the back. Simi Sasanga gives it to Jamal Fogarty. Fogarty at the back of KO Weeks. KO Weeks into the line. Oh, sting's so close. 2 metres out. Fit tackle. Tom Starling. They give it to Jamal Fogarty into the air. Not the greatest of kicks, but it's okay. No, it wasn't the greatest of kicks, and it will be a great grab there from Jesse Raymond, I think it is. Yeah, Jesse Raymond with a great grab there. This is the squeaky bum time, guys. For all rugby league aficionados, who gives a shit who you support, this is the time of the season where this... Oh, it's a penalty to the Sharks at the 10 Raiders. What are you doing? Simi Sasangi. Simi Sasangi gives away a penalty to the Sharks 10 metres out. This is the time of the season, lads, where your heart is in your mouth. You've watched every game. You've watched every week. And it's like, no matter who gets it, even if you don't support these teams, oh, that's not eye contact. That's a tough call. With that being said, though, we've seen a couple of tough calls in this game that can go either way. It's nothing to be too upset about, but I understand why Raiders fans would be frustrated there. We have seen it for you guys, though, today as well, and also for the Sharks, as we've just seen. But this is, yeah... Every year, man, regardless of your support, you get so nervous. You clench up, man. You clench up watching these games because there's just so much riding on it. We are in the thick of it, lads. Second tackle now at the 40. And they roll it back into Braden Trindle. Trindle off to Jesse Colquhoun, or is that Billy Burns? No, it is Billy Burns there at the 45. I get confused by them all the time. Teague Wilson with a good run now to the 40. 4 tackle. Just remember, whoever wins this game, guys, will take on the Melbourne Storm in Melbourne next Friday. Oh, Blake Brayley's off here. I'll take it at 25. Off as in running. It's a high tackle penalty. Do you take the 2? I would... Or do they back it from there? You could go 8 in front here, Cronulla. Yeah, they'll take the 2. You'd take the 2 here every day of the week. You would take the 2 every day of the week. It's what, 25 metres out, a little bit askew to the left. You'd take the chance to go up by 8 points. This is a big kick. Sebastian Kris has always haunted the Sharks. Most encounters, Kris has scored 2 tries. Yeah, well, he broke their hearts this year as well, Sebastian Kris. So 28 metres. Oh, that's definitely high contact there against Zach Hosking. That's lazy from Zach. That's lazy. But yeah, Sebastian Kris was the one who broke away with that 100-metre try against the Sharks when it was 20-18 Sharks in round 5 this year. And the Raiders were down by 2 and ended up winning the game 24-20 in Canberra. So they are taking the 2 here, guys. 25 metres out, a little bit askew to the left. 20 minutes to go here of semi-final number 1. Hit that like button. Subscribe if you're new around here. Don't forget, we'll be back tomorrow. Canterbury Bulldogs versus the Penrith Panthers. It's going to be a belter. 20 minutes to go. Nico Hines, this is a very important kick, mate. If you miss it, you at least have to kick it dead. You at least have to kick it dead. Nico Hines, he should get this. He will get this. And it is a 20 points to 12 game here, Cronulla. 20 minutes to go here of the semi-final. It is 20 points to 12. Jamon says Sharks are getting ripped tonight. Heard it here first. It ripped? What? Brenton, are you saying that that's soft? I feel like you're saying that in regards to... Are you saying... Oh, there was a couple of soft calls we've seen. That was definitely not a soft call. His name was Zach Hosking. That was definitely high. But you must be talking about the previous one. Gyra says, I'm Ellie from Papua New Guinea and I wish the Raiders win this game. Well, good luck. They're not looking too crash hot right now. Plenty of time to go, though. But get around you in Papua New Guinea. Davo says, can you imagine the Adelaide Crows going out in straight sets and the Raiders follow suit doing the same thing? Yeah, I've been saying this for weeks, man. Well, since the Crows did it, I was saying that once Will Kennedy gets that on the run, that was a bit risky, though. So he'll get the support of the 20 on first tackle. I've been speaking about the Crows get knocked out in straight sets and comparing it to the Raiders after the Broncos lost last week. And I did bring up the Crows, actually pre-game of that Broncos-Raiders game too. Nolan says, neither will they beat the Storm. That's great. Raiders have beaten the Storm once this year when they've played together. Storm haven't beaten the Raiders this year. And also, mind you, the Sharks have beaten them once and the Sharks have lost them once. So out of the 3 games the Storm have played both these teams, they've lost twice. Right, so let's not pretend like the Storm are just going to easily win, especially with their error rate too, which is very reminiscent of what the Sharks are doing right now. To the Storm, are they going to go in as favourites? Sure. Will I tip them? Probably. But to say that the Sharks and Raiders can't beat them, the Sharks and Raiders have both quite literally beaten the Storm this year. I think the Raiders was in Melbourne too. Sharks one was in Cronulla. The one in Melbourne, the Storm beat the Sharks. So again, 2 out of the 3 matches the Storm have played against these 2 teams here. One of them they'll play next week. They've lost 2 out of the 3 matches. So let's not pretend like this is just an easy game for the Storm next week regardless. Second tackle here for the Raiders at the 15. Go to the left-hand side, and there'll be third tackle here at the 20. Jared says, Canberra will be spewing if they go out in straight sets. Of course they will be. Of course. Such an enjoyable season. And look, I genuinely will tell you, if Ethan Strange played here today, I think they would have been too hard to catch in the first half. I think the Raiders would have won. I think the Raiders would have won with Ethan Strange. That's a big call to make, considering they're down 20-12 right now. But I think that the margin would have been too big for the Sharks in the first half with the amount of dominant possession the Raiders had in good attacking areas. Sharks will get the ball here at the 35, first tackle. I think the Raiders would have been too dominant. They would have got points on the board, and they would have put him not necessarily to bed, but pretty confidently away in the first half. And the Sharks would have had the chase. And I think the Raiders could have really gone into defensive mode in the second half and been a lot more protective than they were last week against the Broncos. Might be an unpopular opinion, I'm not too sure, but that's what I would say. Monkey Muay Thai says, Brayley has been great when Sharks finally get moving forward. Blake Brayley, for mine, has been the best player of the Sharks all season long, man. He's so underrated. It's been so good to see him finally come forward as the player that we thought he was going to be. Took him a while. And now the Sharks, Britton Nakora gets his ball to the 40. It looks like Britton Nakora is just going to play the rest of the game here. Out of the left-hand side of Braden Trindle at the 35. Pretty basic kick there. And the Raiders will go let it bounce. Oh, my gosh. Oh, my gosh. The Sharks are going to knock it back. That's a knock on Raiders. That's a knock on Raiders. This is a try Sharks. Oh, my gosh. Raiders are gone. Raiders might be gone, lads. Oh, my gosh. It's about to be a 14-point game. Oh, my gosh. The Raiders are about to get knocked out in straight sets unless a miracle happens. This is a try, Brenton. They knock this ball back here, the Sharks. The Raiders knock it on, and then they're just going to score the try underneath the post, and they're going to pick it up. Oh, my goodness me. The Raiders let the ball bounce. It comes down. It's going to be a knock-on from the Raiders from Fogarty. We need to see it close enough here, but Raiders, you have 16.5 minutes to score 14 unanswered points. Kale Leroy is the one who knocked that ball back. And then Kale Leroy's going to score the try to the post. The Sharks look like they're going to Melbourne next week on Friday night right now. Then again, we did say this about the Raiders against the Broncos last week. I told you before, if the Raiders lose this game, I'm sorry, Sharks fans, I'm not going to actually give you the ultimate credit for knocking the Raiders out this year. I think it is the Broncos. Because I think if the Raiders beat the Broncos last week, I think the Raiders would have actually gone on to win the comp, because then we wouldn't have seen Ethan Strange missing this week, and they would have had a home final against one of the Bulldogs or the Panthers, and I could easily have seen, they're still looking at this try, by the way, but I could have easily seen the Raiders going to win the competition provided they won last week, but because they lost last week, I don't know if they've been able to get over that, plus also the fact that Ethan Strange has been out. I think, have they confirmed this yet? They haven't confirmed this try yet, by the way. They haven't confirmed this try yet. This is my money for the Geelong Lions. Granny, David, I'm a Geelong fan. Richie says, yeah, no, we're not making the grand final. Well, just wait and see. It is dead silent in Canberra at the moment. They're still checking this try. Is there a touch from Fanua Blake here? Like, either way, the Sharks are still up by... Still up by 8 points regardless. Try's been confirmed. Try is confirmed. It's about to be a 14-point game. Cronulla away. Well, Sean says, Sharks at the grand final, baby. Here we come. Well, if you're a Storm fan, this is the matchup you would have preferred. But if you're a Sharks fan, you're just happy that you're just going through right now. To be fair, I tipped this final series pretty well at the moment. It's all right. But it will be Sharks 26-12. 15.5 minutes to go here in the game. Raiders, you need to score next. Otherwise, you are out in straight sets. Muddle says the Raiders are going to hate that game last week even more now. Last week's game is what lost them the grand final, in my opinion. Because, again, Ethan Strange would have played the preliminary final. He is sick. It's an illness. He would have played next week. He would have had the week off. I think the Raiders win the grand final if they beat the Broncos, but because they didn't beat the Broncos, they've had to go the hard way. They've then also lost Ethan Strange. I don't think they've been able to pick themselves up from it. You saw in the first half, they didn't have any form of attack without Ethan Strange. Ethan Strange is the crux of their attack, and considering that they were a top 4 attacking team this year, but you had to remove that, and the Sharks are a top 4 defense this year, you keep that, and that's just is what it is, and that's what the story of this game has been. Stormmates is game over confirmed. Not game over confirmed. There's still... The Raiders need to score at least something before the 7 minutes to go mark. Ty Tassel says 14-point game. It says 24-12. That's 12 points. It is 26-12 right now. So if the score is wrong here, then that just hasn't updated yet. No, and as you would have seen, it's just updated there. So it is 26-12. The Sharks now get this ball to the 40. Raiders, you need to do the opposite of your faders, and you need to do it. I did tip the Sharkies today. I did go with it. Lorna says it's anyone's game here. Good luck to both teams. Well, not really. It's 26-12 right now to the Sharks with 15 minutes to go, and the Sharks are at the 40 on the attacking side of the field. Braden Trindle, he's going to kick that ball up into the corner. Good set there from Cronulla. They're coming home like a train here. And you know what? I'm saying that about their season so far. They have won 7 out of 8 games coming into this game. The one loss coming against the Dragons, who also beat the Raiders the week prior. 7 out of their last 8, they win this. They're 8 out of their last 9. The Sharks are predicted preseason to win the comp. You know what? They are, and I've been saying the entire time they're the Smoky, considering their underachieving season. They are a Smoky right now, this Sharks team. They are absolute Smoky. Josh Papali'i will be 4th tackle here to the 40. No, 3rd tackle. It's the off-lit away. And now Simi Sasanga with the 42 4th tackle. Santa says, wow, after the emotions of last week, thinking they made prelims, now getting out of straight sets, that's so sad. Yeah, it's heartbreaking for Canberra, dude. But it's a successful season for them regardless. But their season's not over just yet. There's still 14 minutes to go here at the game. I've got to remind people of this. Sassy Thorne says, I'm a Sharks fan. Well, you're pretty happy right now. And now Fogarty will kick this ball down the centre. It's going to be Will Candy who grabs it at 13. And now he'll be taking out 15 metres out first tackle. Fassman says, is the Sharks saying we win? Game on Friday or Sunday? Friday. Broncos play the Bulldogs or Panthers on Sunday. That's a reminder, guys. Tomorrow, be back here live an hour beforehand. We'll be live for the Canterbury Bulldogs versus Penrith Panthers knockout elimination final to see who plays the Brisbane Broncos at Suncorp next Sunday. Richard says, miracle comeback. Let's go. You're going to need it, man. Josie says, can't wait to watch the game at Amy next week. Oh, yeah, well, good luck. This is a rivalry game between these two teams, too, if the Sharks make it. Sharks and Storm and Raiders and Storm are actually rivals, but Sharks and Storm is a matchup from 2016 Grand Final rematch. And they've had some big games over the years, too. Like, you go back to 2009, Storm knocked the Sharks out in the preliminary final, I think it was. I think it was 2009. That is a good kick there from Cronulla. The Raiders are going to get this ball here at the 10. That's not 40-20, is it? No, it's Raiders ball, isn't it? Yeah, it's not 40-20. Stormate says, wrong, Vossi. I'm not sure if anyone just heard what Vossi said, but I will correct him. The Broncos actually choked a 16-point lead with 15 minutes to go in a grand final 2 years ago. Cheers. Well, that is correct, but what's the context, Az? Why are we talking about the Panthers versus Broncos grand final from 2023? What did Voss claim? Joe Chen says, no hope, Raiders. It's not looking likely, Joe. It's not looking likely at the moment. And it's looking like we're going to be hearing the sounds of up Cronulla very, very soon. Who's your money on for the Panthers versus Dogs game? We'll talk heavy about that tomorrow, man. But I currently am getting a gut feeling about the Dogs. Currently. But that's I think that the way that we think it's going to go, most people will think it's going to go as the Panthers. I feel like with Toby as the 7, the Rays have lost the ball. It's gone backwards, though. And Sharks at the ball at 45. This game's over, lads. This game's over. The Sharks are going through the preliminary final. 11.5 minutes to go to the game. So right this very second, I'm going with my gut, and I'm sticking with the Dogs. I just feel like their team lineup, I don't mind it. Broncos Bulldogs next week will be very interesting, but I think that the best case scenario for Broncos to make the grand final is that they play the Bulldogs. I think the Broncos actually probably lose to the Panthers, but I think the Broncos they're away here. Brett Nakora, he's lost the ball. And now the Raiders, they get a lifeline. 11 minutes to go here. You have to score pretty quickly here, Canberra. Davis has really blazed. The tab has the Panthers as sure things. That's great. Well, the tab also had the Rays pretty confidently here today too when I tipped the Sharks. The tab also had the Roosters last week against the Sharks pretty confidently, and I tipped the Sharks, and they won. Penalty to the Raiders here. I will remind you that the tab is not a marker for what's going to happen. The Roosters were 12-1 underdogs against the Panthers in round 2 this year, and the Roosters won that game as 12-1 underdogs in that game. Don't base your opinion based off of betting odds. Don't base your opinion. If I had based my opinion based off of betting odds this year, or if everyone had based their opinion on betting odds, well, you would be well under, because a lot of the underdogs this year have won their games. There is much more to making predictions and tipping and doing all that than just looking at what the betting odds are. And the overall consensus, Raiders now will be at the 28. Second tackle. 10 minutes to go here of the game, guys. Hit that like button, subscribe if you're new around here, and don't forget to go check out BKRtravel and drop a question on that video that I put in the pinned comment. David says that is true. Brenton says, needed that penalty. Absolutely. Raiders left-hand side now. Jamal Fogarty gives it off here to Hudson Young. Hudson Young now at the 15, gets the offload away. And here's Owen Paddy. Owen Paddy to Joe Tarpany, and Tarpany's going to be 12 metres out, gets the offload away. Owen Paddy again. Owen Paddy to Hudson Young. Hudson Young breaks through 5 metres out from the line, 4 tackle. You have to score here, Canberra. You have to score here. You're down by 3 scores. Owen Paddy, Corey Horsburgh. No, good defence from Cronulla, which they've been good with all day today. Owen Paddy kicks it through. Will Candy gets it. I don't know if Raiders have it, lads. I think it's done for Canberra, lads. I think it's done for Canberra. Muddle says, this or the AFL team going out in straight sets, which is a worse showing? Well, it's both the first place team getting knocked out in straight sets. I will say, though, Canberra have an excuse here today, but there's no excuses this time of the season. But if you want to be gracious to Canberra, you do say that if Ethan Strange plays this, I think they would have been up by a decent amount in that first half. And the Storm, they need to look at that and target that. Blake Brayley, great run to the 33 fit tackle. If Ethan Strange plays here, I do think the Raiders win. But is that 40-20? No, Jed Stewart gets the ball at 10. Crows worst. No, I don't. Yeah, look, I think so. I agree. What a curse year to be number 1 on the ladder. Well, number 1 on the ladder doesn't always... Everyone always thinks that number 1 on the ladder always wins. It doesn't always be the case. Not always the case. If Raiders don't score here, it's over. 8 minutes to go. If they don't score before 5 minutes to go, Mark, I'd say it's definitely over. I'm pretty confident it's over because the Raiders haven't showed any real ability to score here today. And there's a knock on there. Yeah, they're done. Yeah, Raiders are gone, lads. The Raiders are gone. It's just not going right for them. And unfortunately, they fell away the wrong time of the season. The Sharks can put the dagger in right now. They can put the dagger in right now. They're 25 metres out, first tackle. If the Sharks score here, the dagger will go in and Cronulla will go to the preliminary final. They go to Jesse Ramian. Jesse Ramian, he'll be at the 20 on second tackle. This is it, Canberra. This is your time. 6 again. The Sharks are about to put the dagger in. Nico Hines, Jesse Colhoun. It's first tackle at the 15. Raiders are gone, Davo. Ty Tassel says Raiders are frauds. Oh, it's so harsh to say that, man, based off of how their final series has gone. Second tackle, I've got to disagree with you, man. Blake Brayley at the back of Nico Hines. Hines off to Adam Fanor. Blake. And there, my friends, is not the sealer. He's held short just. Third tackle. Blake Brayley goes at himself. He'll be half a metre short, 4 tackle, 7 minutes to go. Nimbus says, just goes to show finals experience is more than season record. Season record's a bit of a facade with the Canberra Raiders, man. Their attacking crux is Ethan Strange, and he is out with an illness. It's so hard to blame that, what you just said, on the Raiders. It's like, this isn't... the Raiders lost so much with no Ethan Strange, dude. They lost too much. They lost their attack. So 10 metres out from the line for the Sharks. Fit tackle. They go short side. Teague Wilson kicks it through. That's a try time. And Cronulla, you are in the preliminary final against Melbourne Storm. 13 points to 12 with a kick to come. Welcome to the preliminary final. Melbourne Storm versus the Cronulla Sharks next Friday night. And I'm going to remove this now. We're going to get back to the realism here, lads. And the Raiders, I will have to... whoa, geez, I just did that. I will have to put you onto eliminated. I'm so sorry, Canberra fans. But it has come. It has come. The first place team has been eliminated. Wowee. Sharkies. I've copped a lot of criticism for them for getting back around the Sharks in the back end of this year too, eh? Even on Instagram in the recent couple of days, I got told that I was crazy and I was a lunatic for tipping the Sharks. You know, it's fulfilling to see it, but like I feel for Canberra fans. Josie passes, no, hey, goodbye. But it says Blake Brayley needs to hit the Viking clap. No, you don't do it to Canberra fans, eh? Jay says, get well soon, Viking Queen. Ethan says Titans have been eliminated. 20-point lead is crazy. Yeah, I wasn't expecting this blowout, but I did say at the very beginning of the game when the Raiders couldn't score, the Sharks still have the attack. The Sharks definitely have the defense. The Raiders may have the defense, but that will be broken through provided they need to attack more. And the Raiders without the attack, there was a chance, but I didn't think it was going to happen. I said Sharks 1 at 12. Matt says, sad, strange, got the clap and couldn't play. Got the clap and couldn't play. That's funny. A what-if season for the Raiders? Definitely a what-if season for the Raiders, Matty. I agree with that one, mate. I agree with that one. Nico Hines will get the conversion. 32-12, 5 minutes to go in the game. Sharkies fans, up the nulla. You are off to a preliminary final next week, which you were in last year. You were in last year. But I feel a lot more validated with my my pre-season thought process. The Sharks will win the comp. Monkey Muay Thai said, hopefully they match up Mulatalo and Coates. That'll be fun. That'll be interesting. Noonmaster says, ladies and gentlemen, your NRL Grand Finalists, Melbourne Storm vs Penrith Panthers for the first time this decade. For the third time this decade. But why? Why do you say that? I don't understand why. Like it's the Sharks have played the Storm twice this year. The Storm played the Sharks in Melbourne at a really rough point of the year for the Sharks, mind you. But the Storm beat them in Melbourne. But the Sharks also beat the Storm this year 31-26 at a better point for them. Now, right now, they are 8 out of their last 9 wins in a row. The Storm don't even have that kind of form at the moment. The Sharks got right at the right time of the season. The Sharks can beat the Storm. Do I think I'm going to tip them? Maybe not, but it's very interesting because it's a rivalry game. The Sharks have beaten them at one point this year. And it's not as easy as you think. And then you got the Panthers. The Panthers haven't ultimately impressed against the big dogs in the competition the last couple of months. When they played the 3 teams, the Panthers, the Raiders, the Bulldogs, and the Storm, granted they rested all their players against the Bulldogs, but the Raiders and the Storm, they lost both of those games. You know, cool, they beat the Warriors with the most vulnerable team in the history of top 8 ever. And they ultimately got over the line there through a forward pass as well, but still with a better team in the game. But, like, where is this guaranteed thought process of Storm versus Panthers? The Broncos, form-wise, the Broncos and Sharks are actually the 2 form teams of the competition. Just want to throw that out there. Form-wise, this might actually be a Brisbane Broncos versus Cronulla Sharks grand final. Because the Sharks are 8 from their last 9. The Broncos are red hot too. And remember when I was saying before the final series, I wanted to see the Broncos lose the Raiders last week so that I could see Broncos versus Sharks because I feel like that could be one of the best grand finals. That could be the best grand final for actually quality of play. Well, right now, there's no way you can completely discredit that thought process that could be the grand final. They are the 2 form teams. The Storm of the ultimately experienced team on a more consistent level, same with the Panthers. But also the Panthers, how have they been consistent this year? You're going to tell me the Panthers have been the most consistent team of the competition this year? I can tell you right now that's absolutely not true. Sean says, Sharks, no rest, no problem, baby. This isn't the game to look at the no rest, no problem because the Raiders played last week too. Next week is the game that'll tell you if the no rest, no problem because the Storm are resting this week whilst you're playing both your straight 2 games. So this game is no rest, no problem. And this game isn't no rest, no problem. Next week is the one where they'll tell you. But you say that comment next week, provided the Sharks win, then you say that next week. Do you know what I mean? Leon says, first place in AFL and NRL out in straight sets. You're absolutely right. My mighty Geelong Cats are into the grand final in the old AFL. So they're playing the Lions, eh? I haven't obviously been able to look at the live score. They go to the left-hand side. Jamal Fogarty, Raiders here, 10 metres out. The game is over, though, lads. Like, if you're a Raiders fan, it's time to... Corey says, Broncos could be in the finals too. They are in the finals, Corey. Josh Papali, we are in the finals. They are in the preliminary final next week. Scott says, Hughes back versus the Sharks. Yep. Yeah, sure. Hughes played when they lost. They won 26. Oh, there's going to be a try here for the... Oh, no, it's not. So close. 7 tackle set. 7 tackle set here for the Sharkies. Unless Katoa's in defeat, I don't think he has, though. Kane says, Sharks versus Panthers grand final. Storm Sharks is hard, man. I'd probably lean still tipping the Storm, but I just think it's disrespectful to the Sharks and people are continuously underrating them, but they'll love that. I think the best likelihood to avoid a Panthers versus Storm grand final is the Panthers lose tomorrow, because I do think the Panthers beat the Bronx, but I do think that the Bulldogs lose the Bronx. Next year for the Faders, just like my wise silencer says. You're right. Both players going for the ball here. And Katoa's missed the ball. So is Hudson Young. It's just going to be a 7-tackle set here for the Sharkies at the 20. They're singing Nana Nana, hey, hey, goodbye in Canberra. Oh my gosh, I feel for Raiders fans. You're getting sledged to shit right now. Oh, they're getting sledged to shit right now. Josie Parker's got a feel for the Raiders fans, man. Strange in would change this game, but bring on the Sharks. I agree. And that's no disrespect to the Sharks. I just think that first 30 minutes was so diabolically bad, the Raiders could have taken away with Ethan Strange. Jade is very proud of the Sharkies. I doubted them right before finals, but I'm very, very proud of the boys. Yeah, well, I was trying to tell you, Jade. Did I not? Try to tell you. I had to back him in for you. William says, no worries, Sharks. William said Storm with 2 S's, mate. There's only 1 S here, champion. Yeah, Timmy Cahill, you can't even reply like that because you're going to get timed out too. Oh, no. Oh, no. William's done himself a mischief. Timmy Cahill's done himself a mischief. Oh, God, help us, lads. First tackle now, and it's going to be now second tackle with the Sharks at the 32. Well deserved for the Sharks, absolutely, Toyota. Thorns, the Sharks. Panthers says Panthers lose tomorrow. Well, obviously, guys, we will be live tomorrow for Panthers versus the Bulldogs. It's going to be a big one. We'll be live an hour before the game starts. And also, don't forget, Monday, we're going to have the Gold Coast Titans season review. If you haven't seen the Newcastle Knights season review, we did that yesterday. But Gold Coast Titans on Monday. St. George Illawarra Dragons on Tuesday. South Sydney Rabbitohs on Wednesday. These are live streams. The West Tigers on Thursday. And then we'll have the Storm versus the Sharkies on Friday. This noob is Asian says, with a $3 you do the nation, get around you, sir, get around you. It says, I want Ethan Strange live reaction. Why do you want to see that pain? It's a knock-on here from the Raiders. The Sharks will get the ball here at the 25. Oh my gosh, the Sharks might actually slap them by 26 if they get this try here. Thank you very much for the donation, this noob. But why? Why do you want to see the pain on the Raiders' faces? Do you hate the Raiders, do you? Adam Demmer says, you just can't concede 50 and win the comp. Don't do this, Adzi. Don't do it. Don't do it, Adam. Adam, what are you doing? Adam, don't start this. Don't start this, please. Please don't start this. Please. Funny Cat says, will Titans review be live? We're live every single day for these postseason reviews. Yes, every postseason review is going to be live. Oh, the Sharks fans, you're all doing the Viking clap. Oh, Canberra fans, I'm so sorry. Oh, dude, you're getting absolutely decked on right now by Canberra fans. Richie Alvarez with the $2 donation. Get around you, Richie. Oh, Raiders fans are getting dunked on in their own stadium. Dally M is on Wednesday, not next week, but the week after. Leon will be live for it. Sharks fans are dunking on Raiders fans at Canberra right now. And there we go, lads. The final score is 32-12 to the Sharks, and they are into the Final Four. They are into the Final Four to play the Melbourne Storm on Friday next week. You've got to feel for Canberra, dude. We'll still stick around for a little bit here and talk about it. And they've got the up the Nulla in the stadium. They've got the up the Nulla. Storm makes a show Ricky Katz. Yeah, I'd love to see Ricky right now. Molotalo fighter. Chauncey passes way. He's not wrong in the 50k stands. Adam is doing that. I know Adam. Adam's a close family friend of mine. He's doing that to piss me off. He knows it. He's not saying it for a legitimate reason, which is correct. He's not saying it for that reason. He's doing it to piss me off. Matt says, wonder if Ricky gets a new set of gum to chew now. Jeez, Raiders. They lost 2. They're out in straight sets. Like, just wild shit, man. Wild shit. Richie Alvarez with a $20 donation. Get around, Richie. Appreciate you for the big dono, son. Says, can't wait for a bunch of Raiders fans to say same old when we lost. Well, is this same old? Like, firstly, thank you for the dono, but, like, last week was gut-wrenching. Like, they lost the grand final last week. You had to win that game. You had to win. The Broncos would have lost this game. The Broncos would have lost this game too, I reckon. I think that you could clearly see that the Raiders were exhausted. The Raiders were tired. They didn't have Ethan Strange, their crux of their attack. There is so much that went wrong here for Canberra where that's why I tipped the Sharks. I just thought that the mental game was going to be too hard to get over. The adversity for the Raiders was going to be gigantic, and they weren't able to do it despite being at home. And then to also lose their crux in their attack You could see in the first half, the Raiders had 62% possession at one stage, and they still lost the first half 12-6. They still lost it. So, Raiders fans, I really feel like if your team had Ethan Strange in this game, you probably would have fallen away late considering how tired you clearly got. The Raiders were very clearly tired from that 94 minutes last week, and that could have still been another fading job. But if Ethan Strange had played in this game, it would have been a big lead with the amount of possession, the amount of errors the Sharks made, the amount of penalties the Sharks gave away, the completion rate, everything was in favour of the Raiders. Just the run meters were separating, and the defensively was a bit separating too, but that came down to that last 5 minutes too. So I think the Raiders could have gone out to an 18-6 lead, 24-6 lead at halftime, and then it would have come down to if the Sharks could run home over the top of them, which clearly they could have. But again, that comes down to how Strange was going. So I think it's a massive what-if season here for the Raiders. A massive what-if. Massive. Pedro says, Raiders too young to handle finals footy. Sure, there is that discussion point too, but I do think they just lost out so heavily in regards to their attack. Kate says, it's funny, but in my opinion, it's actually very sad. That was a pathetic performance by the Faders. I will say that was an extremely disappointing performance across the entire 80. The Raiders didn't. They had 62% possession, and I would have said the same thing at halftime, in the first half. But the Sharks were very good defensively too. Vasco says this is a historic win. Why? Butter's Kitchen says they should not be too smart. Karma has a way of putting you in place. It's not the grand finals for the fans, but not gloat too much. Butter's, this is a very common thing that teams do. Raiders fans have done this before. They take the piss out of other clubs too. Panthers fans do it. You know, I will put my hand up and I'll say that I'm happy to take the literal piss out of any club if I was, say, still on the drums at the Titans. You know, it's all good banter, man. Like, this is what happens. You know, at the end of the day, the Raiders fans, and I'll tell you this from a person who used to go to every single Titans game, or a person who's gone to a lot of games. If you are an away fan and you lose that game, you are getting shat on. You are getting, in a semi-final like that, if you get knocked out, you are getting destroyed and completely shat on by that home crowd. They will slap you so hard with their screams, and they're laughing at you, and they'll piss you right off. It is absolutely fair game for the Cronulla Sharks to go like this. It's fair game. Because I can tell you, from a away fan's perspective, you are going to get annihilated, especially in a game of this much value. Especially in a game of this much value. The Sharks fans can do what the hell they want. But also, the flip side is that if the Sharks lost a game at Sharky Park and they complain about people giving them shit, well, you can shut your mouth. You know, because you can do it to the Raiders, fair and square. But if you can't complain about it when it happens to you. You know, so, and it would happen to Sharks fans at Shark Park when they do lose, which they haven't lost much this year at home, mind you. Master said, I'm genuinely convinced the Sharks can go it away. Yeah, well, I tipped them pre-season to win a comp, so, you know, I'm still backing it in. Storm was a very difficult game in Melbourne, though. Very difficult game. Casey says, my 2 cent predictions, it's a Storm versus Penrith. Storm will win, but it's a Broncos versus Storm. Broncos will probably pull it off in a close one. Disagree. Broncos always usually lose to the Storm. Don't take round 27 this year as a crux for what those two teams represent when they play each other. I think the Storm beat the Broncos. I think the Broncos may beat the Sharks. I'd probably back in the Broncos at the Sharks, though. But I think the Broncos beat the Dogs, but I don't know if the Broncos beat the Panthers. Tomorrow's going to tell us a lot, but it'll be interesting. Sassy Thorn says, are you streaming the Sharks versus Storm? Sassy Thorn, I stream every game here. We've been here the entire season. So that's why you will see how invested I am, regardless of the fact that my team came second last this year. You know, I'm so invested. We stream every single game. So that's why we're always here, man. We'll be here tomorrow. We'll be here all throughout the weeks, the post-season reviews, plus also we've got those games next week, and then also the grand final, which will be live for all 3 games from grand final day. Gemma says, I will celebrate like it's bloody New Year's Eve if Bulldogs can beat the Panthers tomorrow. Yeah, it's a massive game. It's a massive, massive game. And whoever wins that plays the Broncos at Suncorp next week. Jared says, Raiders fans are terrible sore losers. There are worse. I'm not going to disagree with you, but there are much worse fan bases for sore losers than Canberra. But I will also not disagree with you overall in regards to my attendance at that stadium. William says, predicting grand final, Bronx versus the Sharks. I like it. I actually do like it. It just comes down to me for that there's still This right here, majority of people took the Raiders, even with Strange out. This right here should tell you how difficult this year is to predict the comp. It is so difficult because the Sharks were pretty significant enough underdogs. The Raiders were significant enough favourites in this game. Most underdogs, a lot of underdogs this year have gotten up over the top. And, most people didn't tip the Broncos about the Raiders last week in Canberra. What else is there? There's most people didn't tip. Everyone tipped the Roosters, actually. I tipped Sharks, and a couple of people here tipped the Sharks, but most people tipped the Roosters. I don't think the Broncos Sharks should be thrown out of the equation, despite the fact that it's been thrown out of the equation. Everyone is so locked in on a Storm versus Panthers grand final right now that people are forgetting about the other teams. And I think there is a genuine opportunity for the Broncos with the form team, the Sharks, who are one of the form teams, if not the equal form team with the Broncos. It's just the Broncos have that more X factor. But those two teams are the form teams. And also, mind you, the Raiders just lost by 1 point to the Broncos. The Sharks just beat that same Raiders team by 20 points in Canberra as well. So, there's a lot to think about. AB says, yep, they are the biggest sooks ever. You tap Leon, so let's go Sharks and Dogs and Broncos. You can't go for the Dogs and the Broncos. Or you can't go for all three teams. Jason's hopefully for a Sharks versus Dogs grand final because I think the Dogs are the easiest matchup. I think if you think you're going to win the grand final this year, man, as a Sharks fan, and I've said this for so long now to every single team, if you want to be the best, you have to beat the best. Who gives a shit who you play? If you're going to win the grand final, you don't want these what ifs of these other teams. You don't want to hear that shit. You just want to beat whoever you play. Who cares about who you play, man? If you're in a preliminary final, your team can win a grand final. If you are in the final four teams of the competition, your team can win the grand final against the Storm, against the Broncos, or against the Panthers / Bulldogs. Your team can do it. They've already beaten the first place Raiders here by 20 points in Canberra. They already beat one of the informed teams of the competition, the Roosters, in 8th position. They've already won 8 of their last 9 games. The Sharks are pre-season predicted by me and by a lot of other people to be in the first place or top 4. So this team can do it. So it's not about playing this and playing that. You shouldn't be scared about whoever you play. You should be confident that Sharks' performance tonight of 32-12, despite having 38% in possession the first 30 minutes, despite having... How many errors did you finish on? You put it from 38% to 50%. Your completion rate got up to 80% too. Second half was way better. You dominated the run meters. You dominated the post-contact meters despite being down. You equal it out, but that's a domination in the second half. Line breaks you had more of. Errors-wise, wow, you had 46 missed tackles, though. That's crazy. 11 errors. So you only had 3 errors in the second half. You had 4 extra penalties in the second half. I'd be confident in the Sharks based off of that. They were still able to win that game against first place away from home. But I understand the banter. I have played both league and rugby when I used to live and work in Brisbane, but the worst sledging I ever experienced was at the hands of cricket fans. Maybe soccer is worse. It's all part of it, man. I get what you're saying, but it's all part of it. Sean says, I picked the Raiders tonight and they lose by 20 points. I don't know what is going to happen tomorrow. I'm currently leaning towards the Dogs. I know you're a Dogs fan. I'm currently leaning towards them. But it's it's interesting. It's just interesting how it pans out. Michael says, Trindle and Finals games is scary. Trindle was good, but Nico Hines was fantastic tonight. Fantastic besides that blown challenge early. Gemma says, my brother's going to Vegas to watch them play next year. I was in Vegas this year watching the Sharkies versus the Panthers and the Raiders versus the Warriors. It was good. Stormmates has clipped that. I'm going to say that tomorrow as well, probably. I would assume. But guys, I'm going to jump off here for now. Obviously, we've been here for... basically probably about 4 hours now. What time we start up? At 3:50 my time, so 3.5 hours or so, maybe 4 hours or so. I'm not too sure. We're done here for today. The Sharks will be going through the preliminary final to take on the Canberra Raiders. Not the Canberra Raiders, they beat the Raiders. Sharks are going through the preliminary final to take on the Melbourne Storm in Melbourne next Friday night. Well done to the Sharks. Very, very harsh there for the Raiders, but it is what it is. Obviously, guys, hit that like button and subscribe. We'll be back tomorrow, an hour before the Bulldogs versus the Panthers game in another elimination final to see who they play, who the Broncos play next Sunday in the prelim. We are 3 games away of NRL from finding out who's in the grand final. We are 3 games away from the grand final. It's going to be huge. If you haven't checked out BKRtravel yet, please go to the pinned comment, check out my travel channel, ask a question about any of my travels this year. I'm going to be putting it into videos over the coming weeks. So jump onto there, put a comment down, and I'll put it up. It can be about anything that your heart desires. But like I said, thumbs up, subscribe, and we'll see you tomorrow. Thanks for watching. Catch you later.